Are we on the internet?
Are we on the internet?
Are we up?
Are we live? Oh, we are.
Here?
Okay.
Can you see us?
Yes.
Excellent.
Oh wait, no, we're live. I see us on my device here.
All right.
We're alive?
That is,
Oh, hello.
yes.
For now.
Hi.
Thank you for tuning in. We weren't sure if we wanted to do it this way or not. As far as this is not going to be an actual play game session. So, if you want lots of action, this may not be the right one for you. That will be next week when we start RINGWEB itself, which is I call it campaign, but I guess that's a little bit grandiose. It's going to be a 3-episode arc using the Numenera setting and the Cipher games system from Monte Cook Games. I'm trying to think, where should I start? This is going to be a session 0. Session 0s are something that I've become very... a lot of people are talking about using them now, and I really swear by them. I think that they're incredible. And basically what it is it's a session where you get together with your players and you create characters together, you talk about the world, you set each other's expectations for what kind of experience you want to have in the game, what sort of subjects might be taboo, or what kind of what level of tone and humor you're looking for. It's kind of like a sort of pre-production session for the actual game itself.
We're in development. We're so fancy.
It's true.
Yeah.
We are in development.
And there are a lot of reasons why we like doing session 0s beyond what I outlined there. Ash has run us through the making characters using a system called Hillfolk, which we also love. And that really, one thing you can really do is if you're building your characters together, you can establish these connections baked in to the story. So you don't necessarily have to go through the whole thing of you meet in a tavern and who are you and what are you about and do I like you or not, and you're building interconnected backstories from the very, very start, and that really helps. It really helps for getting right into the story that you want to tell. I think a lot of the games I've run, I'll have a particular segment of story that I'm most interested in, and I'm just trying to get to that. And sometimes I'm doing the minimum, or maybe not my best, just because I'm really trying to get to that point. But if you can, whatever you can do to make everything be good content, I think is worthwhile. So this just sort of helps you get to that and skip over a lot of the stuff that in the game can be awkward, And yeah, I mean, if you're playing a home game with a bunch of really reliable friends who are going to show up week after week, you can take the time to really build a lot of these characters and have depth and meaning and emotion behind when people interact. But one nice thing about this is I feel like you can get a lot of that same quality in a much shorter time. It's much more compressed, and that leaves you more time to play other games as well. So you can be doing multiple games. So even for something short like this, where it's only 3 sessions, I think session 0s are great, and they don't necessarily need to be as long as a normal session. I mean, if you all want to hang out for 3 hours today and do this, I'm totally fine with that. But sometimes it can be just having coffee with your players, while you're planning the game. There are other things you can do in a session 0, like which are really good sort of management things, like what days can we meet? If we have to cancel and reschedule, what is another good day for that? So there are real life expectations you can set in a session 0 as well. So one of the Monte Cook Games is a company that makes Numenera. And they also make a lot of other great games, like, let's see, Predation is a really fun one.
Predation's a great supplement. The Strange, I believe, is also built on the Cipher System.
Bruce
Unmasked,
Cordell.
God's Fall.
I know of a cool show that some kids I know are playing that is based on the Cipher System.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
What do you know?
Maybe.
What is it? Is it Callisto 6?
What is Callisto 6?
What even is that?
What even is that? Is that
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Also, hello to the Super Punks and Ox crew who are hanging out with us. We appreciate it, and now you get to see how terrifying I am putting a Cipher System character together.
Yes.
I'm sorry, maybe.
Which I'd like the record to show. We already told Sam, we're like, this is Sam's AU, basically. So Sam is assigning roles based on Sam's fantasy.
Yeah.
There are lots of ways of doing session 0. This is apparently ours today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are a lot of things. Sam was saying that they wanted to see Dave play a certain sort of character, and we're all like, oh, yes. So we put them in charge of that. We're going to be taking a lot of our cues on what we get to what we decide to play from Sam. But yeah, so Monte Cook Games has this thing, the Cipher System, which is a very flexible. I hesitate to call it rules light because sometimes that's used kind of in a way to say, oh well, the rules are less important, so they're less crunchy and less. I mean, I think.
Al dente.
Yeah.
It's not crunch, but it's al dente.
I think it definitely isn't any more complicated than 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that. It is very conducive to storytelling. And in this case, one of the new products that Monte Cook Games just finished their Kickstarter for is this book called Your Best Game Ever, which has some very cool contributors in it. And Monte Cook, Bruce Cordell, Shanna Germain, all those. There are a lot of the great folks from Monte Cook Games have made basically a system agnostic book that is just tips for how to run your best game ever. And session zeros, I think, are one of the things they're probably going to spend some time on in that book because a lot of it is about communicating with your players and collaborating. You know.
Do you have to stop as well as collaborate and listen?
You should.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, whenever I'm back with a brand new invention, you should be ready.
Well, we're done. All right. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. That was
our session 0.
I can't. You're right. I can't top that. Thank you for that setup. Thank you for that setup, Dave. So the setting that we're playing in, Numenera, is actually I think it's their oldest system. It's the first one the Cipher System developed out of what they did for Numenera, and Numenera had a Kickstarter which finished earlier. No, it was last year. They're fulfilling a lot of it now for a new edition of Numenera. And Numenera it's set in a setting called the Ninth World, so it's post-apocalyptic, but it's after 8 apocalypses to a degree. It's 1 billion years in the future. You can Ash, you can swear on this stream.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
we're like, oh fiddlesticks. I appreciate that's like the hipster apocalypse. You're like, we did it after 9 apocalypses, like because one apocalypse.
So here's the thing, right? So it isn't even necessarily a science fiction setting. One of the premises that Numenera really works on is this quote from Arthur C. Clarke, which is, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So imagine if you found stuff buried in the earth, or in the case of the Ninth World, it's all around you. It's in everything. It's in the air. It's in the plants. It's in the animals.
It's inside you.
It's inside you, too, yeah.
You've got the power.
Well, you've got the power, and you've also got the leftovers, basically, of these billions of years of transhumanism. Some of those civilizations, those 8 civilizations that fell, weren't human. They were people who, came from other dimensions, or possibly from, beyond the stars, or the depths of our oceans.
It doesn't have to be science fiction.
Yeah. But because the science fiction, because the stuff is so long ago, it's like fantasy, People have if you have something that's like a device that has a glowing crystal on the end of it, it's not a flashlight to you. I mean, it's a wand, it's a scepter,
Or if you have a Nokia cell phone, anybody with that thing.
So one thing that we really do try to avoid, I think, in Numenera, at least I do, and I think it's suggested by a lot of the creators, is you don't look for cute references of, oh, you found a Jeep, or whatever, You don't really go for sort of cute references like that, because that happened like 1 billion years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, it's about keeping these things mysterious, and a lot of the Ninth World is very feudal. It can play a lot like a fantasy game, in that even as people who are adept at manipulating these remnants of the previous worlds, that's what the Numenera are. They're called the Numenera, basically, or like all of the ancient tech, and they don't necessarily know how it works. They may know how to get it to work in their current context, something that they might use for one purpose. There are smaller pieces of Numenera that are called ciphers. That's where the Cipher System gets its name from. But a cipher is like a one-use item. It's a one-use Numenera. It could be like a pill that you take. You take this pill, and all of a sudden, for a brief time, your skin turns to steel, or something like that. Their ciphers can work in tandem, There are people who have integrated stuff like Numenera into their bodies themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could go on and on about this forever. I just wanted to give a brief overview of what the general setting is. The setting for the campaign we're playing, RINGWEB, is actually it has a lot of things from the Ninth World setting, but it's very remote. And when I say remote, I don't want to be more specific about it, because I think that's some of the fun of it. Is you're coming from a very isolated group that really doesn't have any idea of what's going on in the rest of the world. But in some ways it doesn't really matter, because that is their whole world. So I'll give a brief description of what the setting that we're specifically playing in, which is my own original piece of the Ninth World, is. Now, when I say it's remote, I want to be ambiguous about that. It could be remote in time. It could be remote in space. It could be incredibly deep underground or underwater.
Spoiler alert, we're on the moon. You heard it here first, we're on the moon.
Which moon?
See? So, basically, you are a group of people who are members of a village. And this village, it's the only village in your world. You don't know anything else beyond it. Your village is the village of today. It's named Today. Your world is a cylinder. And it's a cylinder that yesterday is where you came from. And tomorrow is hidden behind a barrier shield. So I guess let me see if I can describe this better. Imagine like a tire, or like a tube, like a tube for a bicycle tire. And then imagine that this village is suspended on a series of webs, like a funnel web. You know, like a funnel web. Mm-hmm. So imagine like a tube, basically, and this web is constructed. It has interconnected buildings. It's a mixture of, it's organic in some ways, but also technological. It incorporates stuff made by the founders into its architecture. But it's this funnel web suspended inside this cylinder. You look like you got a question.
Is this like Halo style? Is it where we can walk all the way around?
Okay, we'll get to that, but you're on a similar track.
So we're inside the tube, like...
You are inside of it, yeah.
Okay.
And the funnel web that funnel web does not fill the entire ring, basically, right? You're a web that's suspended in this ring. At one end of the village of Today is a sort of no man's land kind of area, and then there is a very elaborate shield which is held in place, which blocks off the tunnel, right? The ring. On the other side of that ring is Tomorrow. And Tomorrow is an incredibly powerful, it's basically the power of the gods. And some of it escapes through a very focused crystal in the center of the shield, this sort of membrane, right, that has been constructed by the inhabitants of Today. And some of it escapes and is focused through this beam that runs through the center of the ring, right? So you are suspended on gravity sort of surfaces around the edges of this ring, and that power source, the power of the gods, and Tomorrow is constantly moving around the ring, and Today moves with it. So there are both things built into the structures that attach them to the walls of the tunnel, which have their own gravity and stuff like that. And a lot of the daily tasks, things grow on the web that are food supply and that those sort of things. But also, one of the duties of the inhabitants of the village of Today, which is roughly about 4,000 people, is to keep Today moving. Because the source follows. Tomorrow moves. Mm-hmm. It moves around this ring in a 360 cycles, basically. So there's no day and there's no night. But today is constantly moving. Today is a place. And in the area where you've left behind yesterday, that is, it basically becomes a wasteland when you go out beyond a certain amount. So there are various reasons that the inhabitants of the village today have to go out and scavenge in the wasteland to be where they were before. But each great cycle, the village of today moves around this ring. This funnel is moved, this village-sized, community.
So, based on our experience of today moving, we're pretty sure that the circle is intact. I recognize
it's
the
known.
audience.
Yeah, it's known. It is a thing.
Right.
People know that it is a cycle.
Just a certain part of it is inhabitable, which is always moving around.
Yeah.
Almost like one atom in an orbit.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But there's also that is the world. This is the only world that you know.
Right.
So
that's just how it is.
You have no frame of reference for anything else, for living on in other sort of circumstances. But this is it. This is what you know, and this is one of the things we're going to talk about today. But I'd like to have at least some of the people playing the characters be young people who are on the cusp of a sort of coming of age ceremony, and this coming of age ceremony aligns with the one big holiday. That the most important day in the Great Cycle is when today lines up, the village of today lines up with the tower and the door. Because there is one point on this ring where there is a door, and there's this mythical door that has sometimes attendant.
I'm gonna open it.
Yeah, I'm gonna open it.
Could you go ahead,
open the door.
Take your time.
Open the door.
Let's not.
Yeah.
See?
Okay.
Don't.
So I'd like some of the people, and some of the people I want to have play young people who are in this thing called school, right? But
School.
So let's talk about. One of the things when you go through a fantasy game, they're like, okay, so these are the choices of character classes, these are the choices of races. So there are two castes. Yes.
Can I just make one tiny request before we dive completely
No, I have to bombard you with all of it now.
No, this is your show. Go.
No, go ahead. I was being facetious.
I was just wondering, before we super dive into this, can we make our other announcement, or you let us...
Oh, yeah. Let's do that now before we get too much deeper into this.
Because I feel like we're about to get super nose neck deep.
Announcement.
Or we just do it as the finale.
Well, but not everyone may have the luxury of watching the entire stream.
Oh, that's true.
I know you would want to. But
yeah.
We hope you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. You need to promise that you'll stay and hang out for a little bit longer, even after this announcement, and watch us plan this game. Okay?
We can
Deal?
do
All right. It's a promise. I'm going to hold all of you to that.
So, okay.
Is this the one where I announced that I'm excited?
I felt like that was implied, but yes.
No,
please do.
it's never implied.
Everyone at home
always
is
makes
wondering
sense.
if Sam is
True.
excited.
They're
I'm not
we're
sure.
Not too sure about how Sam's feeling
I've
about
never
this.
seen the session zero before. It's actually super cool. Also,
yes.
I got half these character options really recently, and so you get to watch me just devour.
Yeah, we definitely
I am hardcore. I have an idea now.
You're formulating something?
I have something.
Okay.
Yeah, I have something.
I'm going to...
But wait, there's more.
All right.
There's more.
But wait,
So let's do announcement stuff.
Yeah, we very much debated whether or not we were going to stream the session zero, and we decided that we wanted you guys to see that this is what we're actually like. By the way, this is what it would be even if we weren't streaming.
Yeah.
So announcement. So, as you know, we all met. We kind of came together as the cast of a different show that I had the honor of having in the honor of casting. And I think I've told you before that at the time, the first two people that I knew I wanted were Alcuin and Sam. I knew I wanted Alcuin and Sam before the show. I even knew what the show was going to be about because of my experience on We're Alive Frontier and on Shield of Tomorrow and just basking in their radiance. And I'm boring Ash. I'm gonna start saying words about you soon.
You know what? If you can't handle me Sunday morning after LARPing,
that's true. Poisel, Ash, and I were out till 2 a.m. LARPing because we're super G nerds.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm the prince. Just so
and soon after Alcuin and Sam confirmed, the next two people that came along were Ash and D'Artagnan here. Because
We're left too. I swear.
it's true. You are.
That high five was
Peace squad.
pathetic, though.
And in I know, but you're captivated. Yeah, and in the process of trying to round out our fellowship, because logistically our old show was going to start with 4 characters, and I had a real concern that if somebody could make it, 3 wasn't enough, and that's why we moved up to 5. And it just so happens this was right after the last LARP, where I had met Poisel for the very first time.
We're gonna need one more.
Yes, and asked them to come
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
join our show also. And what we discovered is we really enjoy playing with each other, and we really enjoy hanging out with each other, and we realize that we don't need to be constrained by just one show in just one place.
No.
So I'll pass the mic to Sam here.
Oh, whoa, what?
You can say the next piece.
Ah!
We're freestyling. It's like a
What?
battle rap.
No, that's like giving me narrative control. You know how I feel about this, B-Dave.
Again, consent. Blanket consent.
No!
Okay, all right. Sam doesn't want to say. All right. But feel free, anybody to jump in.
Well, I can take over a little
Please
bit.
do, yes.
You want? And I'll GM you through this. So we decided that we wanted to have a sort of group that we could carry with us from one channel, one platform to another, just to open it up to how we cooperate with other people, and also so that fans could follow us, more easily and know that oh yeah, here we go. These people are doing stuff together, and even if you go see us on a new channel, you know that you're going to get us. Yeah, and it lets us really work on our chemistry and how we work together as a group. It gives us a chance to rotate who's GMing or DMing, which is also fun.
Like the 2-shot I did on saving throw with all of us. For,
Which was amazing.
Yeah. So we put together this group and we call it the Uncommon Trust.
The Uncommon Trust. All the socials are up. There's not any posts on them, but Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, The Uncommon Trust.
There will be more.
We're going to start saying words now that we have words to say. And we'll have a Twitch soon and YouTube and all the things.
Yeah. So, for example, RINGWEB is going to be The Uncommon Trust and QueueTimes. Let's
so excited.
Big shout out to QueueTimes. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Chat just asked if we're an RPG gang.
And I said yes.
PG gang.
Not a gang.
I like to think of us like the Rat Pack, but we're like the Nerd Pack.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
We talked about this.
Hold on a second.
And I'm Shirley MacLaine.
And we're a 6-pack. Holy crap.
We are 6.
I told you I'd get one somehow.
We figured it out.
Yeah. So, again, you guys, that's basically the gist of it. That we're doing something that is unusual. To the best of my knowledge, nobody is trying this yet, which is why we're doing it. We just want to be able to create cool games in cool places and collaborate with as many people as possible. Also, stop and listen to them. So now we're going to be doing this noon to 3 here in QueueTimes for at least the next few weeks. We also have another thing coming.
So my announcement is forthcoming in my session 0 is tomorrow. It is not going to be streamed, but on September the 24th in the evening, I don't know whether it's going to be 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock,
Which is a Monday.
but Monday evenings, I am going to be running a Shadowrun game on saving throws. Again, it is the precursor, starting with 3 episodes, but potentially being a full run campaign, and I'll be playing with Sam.
It's me.
And Alcuin and Ash. And the lovely Amy Vorpal will be joining us as well.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna eat all of her pancakes.
Yes. So
Is that a euphemism?
Oh, that's a whole nother episode.
Oh, that's a sexy one.
Tune in to find out.
I'm gonna eat your pancakes.
I do have a Twitter for it. I don't remember what the Twitter handle on it is. But the game will be called Shadows on the Horizon. And it'll be fun. So stay tuned. I'll be posting more about that shortly.
Yeah. So we basically have our 2 Uncommon Trust launch titles of Numenera RINGWEB with GM Alcuin Gersh, Shadowrun with GM Poisel.
Yes.
And again, you find us in all the places you're used to. I have Vampire starting this Friday. LA by Night will be doing Vampire.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I can't wait to watch that.
Yes, We're Live Frontier Season 2 is coming back soon. Callisto 6 is on and running.
What is Callisto 6?
But what is
What
it?
is it?
Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to try to find out next week. We'll see how that goes. It'll go really well.
Yeah.
It'll go so well. Don't even worry about anything dangerous that's happening in Callisto 6.
Yeah, and
No worries.
any of you who want to be, some of our, I think a lot of the people who are in the chat right now are people who have followed us from one venue to another.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what do you want to be called? Should you be called the trustees? Or I don't know.
What
are,
so like dignified? Yeah. You
Yeah,
guys pick a name.
we let you pick the hashtag.
Because you guys are like the real people.
I see people
Yeah.
asking for shirts already.
Yeah, they're asking for shirts. Thank you. We're gonna work that out. But But more than anything, I just want to say thank you to all of you. A lot of you that are watching right now, we see you every time, and you're always supporting us, and we appreciate it.
We love you.
And we're working on even more things that we can't talk about now because they're a little further out. But we're really going to be doing some super cool stuff in the very near future, and we thank you so much for being with us.
And I want to thank Maze Arcana, Rudy and Satine and Steven and everybody there for helping us put together a great show with the Agony of Kairos. Whatever happens with that show in the future, we have they put a lot of faith in us, and they really open their hearts and their home to us to stream.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So let's thank them.
And then they brought these adventurers together for these adventures.
Yeah.
So should we hop back in?
Hopefully we get to return to the world of Relentless at some point. But in the meantime, we're exploring some new worlds and new civilizations. We're boldly going.
Who has whole new world stuck in their head now?
I did before.
And this really amazing RINGWEB. Like I'm excited to see what the circle entails.
Okay.
I love this sort of literal metaphor.
Now.
All right. So next.
There's a shield of tomorrow, and I'm feeling so attacked right now.
Yeah.
There is. Yes.
There's a shield of tomorrow.
There is a shield of tomorrow.
There's literally a shield of tomorrow. Well, it's part shield, part lens. Very little of this light gets through it, and then projects out like a beam. And part of the beam cast off from that light that comes out is one of the things that's necessary for like the organic parts of the web that you live in to grow, so you can harvest foodstuffs and new pieces of equipment and those sort of things. We got to get to some other more fundamental setting defining things that exist in the village of today. There are two castes of people in today. About 4,000 people. There are a very small percentage of people who are born who are referred to as the reborn, and the reborn are quite similar to us in that they are very human. Amazing.
Fabulous.
They're fabulous.
They like RPGs.
Yeah. The reborn, here's the other thing too, is anytime anyone is born as one of the reborn, they are literally someone who has existed before.
So they're aware of this? They're like avatars?
The reborn are reincarnated. Mm-hmm. This small group of people are reincarnated.
We didn't say this outright, but I don't know anything about Numenera. So
this is not Numenera. This is me.
Right. Oh, what? So I don't know the difference. Yeah. So that's why I'm asking.
I'm Griffin McElroy. Post. I'm going into my own shit.
This new world is our whole world.
This is our whole new world.
Yeah.
Got it.
So our whole
there are two. So these people, the reborn, there have been 256 different people who have been reborn.
Can we play Reborn?
Yes. Some of you will be playing Reborn. Okay. Yes. Now the reborn are they are less transhuman than the majority of the people of the village of today, which are the Ariadne. And the Ariadne are more transhuman. I mean, in
the context of this game, what is transhuman?
And are they connected by a thread?
Well, I'm trying to let me. I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble with my words here.
Sorry.
So basically, when the Ariadne have their eyes are a little larger, their bodies tend to. It's easier for them to incorporate ciphers into their bodies. Mm-hmm. They tend to have more upper body strength. They're basically
all day.
Well, they have evolved living in this environment over generations, because the Reborn are fertile, so and they can interbreed with the Ariadne.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the big division, and the Reborn they're seen by some of the Ariadne as sacred, but some of them kind of feel like, oh, why are we still doing this? Why are we still taking care of these people? You know. So
the Reborn are like throwbacks in a way, like if the Ariadne continue to evolve.
Yeah. They're starting from a save file over and over again.
The Reborn, yeah, they're purebreds. If you were to like bring it into dog metaphors, like they don't change, like the bloodline stays.
Well, here's the thing: is that they're not necessarily. They are not pure. They're not seen as being superior.
No, I understand.
Some people would. Some people would definitely see them as superior. They are basically supposed to be the reincarnation of the founders.
Okay, but for like genetic purposes, thinking about like.
And they can interbreed with. So there are Ariadne who are born they might have a grandmother who was one of the Reborn, or there's a very good chance they have multiple relatives. Our ancestors that were reborn. So this baseline genetic stuff is getting reintegrated into the and not all of the Reborn choose to reproduce. Some of them, are not able to. It doesn't. They're not. They don't seem to exist as some sort of fertility mechanism per se, but they are reborn.
So are the Reborn only born, or can they be born from Ariadne?
Yes.
Okay. That's just like, I'm like, so they're like, even if you have two very, very older parents.
Well, here's another thing I should talk about. The Reborn do exist on a spectrum of gender. There are male, there are female, and then there are people who are somewhere else on that spectrum. The Ariadne themselves are probably more towards the center of that spectrum generally than the Reborn are.
And he's over here.
So yeah, there are ideas about sexuality and gender are a little different, and I'm also kind of worried I'm going to really fuck it up in some places when you try to tell a story like this. But there's always risk in that. So that's another reason too why it's nice to have these session zeros so that people can tell me like, oh dude, that is a terrible idea.
And
you're
therefore you should do it though. That's the
always
follow-up.
do the bad idea.
Like, that's awful. Therefore you should do the thing.
Yeah. So the Ariadne can reproduce sexually with each other. There's also there are instances where through the use of I hesitate to call it technology, but the tools that exist that the people of today use, there are males who carry children to term and things like that.
Like they're seahorse people.
I was literally just saying that.
Seahorses
do that notoriously.
Mm-hmm. So
dog metaphors. We got seahorses. This is gonna be a great game.
Yeah. There are people who are all over the spectrum, of neurologically, being in a place on the spectrum, maybe biologically another. I mean, there are always going to be distinctions and prejudices and groups, people who don't like, but it's definitely different than our world. It's when it comes to that. So, geez. Okay, so let's talk some more about the cycle of life here.
So many Disney references.
As the circle of life, yeah.
It's true. We're literally living on a circle of life, so it works.
Super down.
One of the main. So the village of today has to keep moving. It has to keep moving because if it doesn't, tomorrow will move around the back end of the circle, and it'll push the creatures that are awakened and within yesterday to attack today, basically.
You never want tomorrow coming at you from yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
nothing good can come from that.
So
today has to follow.
Forward, your past will.
You're consumed by the past.
Consume you.
It's like a metaphor.
Oh yeah.
Get it?
Oh yeah.
No, I love everything about.
Okay,
this.
good.
Right?
I'm glad you're liking this because
Groovy man.
For me, Actually, here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do at this point. I will talk about some other things that have influenced my design for this world. That if you want to go, if any of the people watching or you as players want to go check out, it's really good, fun homework. So
homework. All right. Take notes.
Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind.
Oh, it's the fucking Nausicaä game.
Yeah, Hayao Miyazaki. In the sense that they're, sort of a small community that has to go out into a corrupted landscape, and there's more to the story behind how that landscape became corrupted, what it means for them right now. So yeah, Miyazaki's Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind is a big inspiration. One of my primary inspirations is the work of a Japanese manga artist named Tsutomu Nihei. And he has a couple comics like Buramu, which is written like blame in all caps with an exclamation point.
Are you going to put these in the chat or...
We could.
We can tweet them out.
We can tweet them out. Yeah, we can tweet them out.
So if you follow the Uncommon Trust's Twitter account...
there is an...
be our first tweet!
But Buramu is a very dense, long manga without a lot of dialogue in it. And a lot of atmosphere. The atmosphere in it is very, very much like what we're talking about in this world. There is a Netflix movie of it. There's a Buramu movie on Netflix, which is probably the most accessible way you'll be able to see his work. Yeah,
True.
And it's pretty good at getting a lot of the beats of the story in something that has a lot of action in it. So that's another big influence. His work, Buramu, Biomega. Knights of Sidonia is another one that he did, which is also on Netflix. That's an anime series, and that's a story about an Ark ship of humanity out in space, and that has like mechs and stuff in it.
I like Knights of Sidonia. It's good.
Yeah, that one's a little more conventional, but it still has a lot of his weirdness in it. So, yeah. But Buramu is or Blame is very very easy to watch. I think it's like a 2-hour movie or less or something like that. Dune is a big inspiration for a lot of this world as well. I think the Fremen and the culture of the Fremen is pretty cool. The people of today use things called filter skins, which are anti-contamination suits that are made out of. They're not just anti-contamination; they also have ciphers and stuff integrated into them to assist with climbing, movement, gathering things. So they're in a way they're almost like the sort of still suits of the equivalent of the Fremen still suits.
So again, not counting people that are like modified or like slightly different, are there beings in this world that we're aware of that are overtly like not human? Like orcs to humans, dwarves to humans, gnomes to like you and I are not the same.
There are no other humanoids. There are no other. There are the creatures that live within yesterday, which are basically they seem to come from the ring itself, and they're ambush hunters, and they seem to be almost provoked by the presence of humans. You know, when I say humans, the Reborn and the Ariadne are both humans. There might be different types of post-human or transhuman, but when I say humans, or whatever, I'm not separating between those two castes. But yeah, it's the humans and the monsters in the dark, in the dirty, dusty dark.
Right.
You know, further down the tunnel where you came from.
Yeah,
the bogeyman.
Yeah. So yeah, there are groups that go out for whatever reason. Sometimes, the village of today moves, but sometimes things get left behind. But there are groups who go out in filter skins, these suits, and they do hunt. They do hunt the scavengers and creatures that live in yesterday. It's incredibly dangerous. There are a couple social tenets that exist in today that are important. The big mantra, the big thing that people say, and people say this to each other as hello or goodbye in today, is we go together. And basically, we go together is the mantra of the people of today. And it goes back to something that you don't. It does represent how the entire place moves. We go together. It also represents how when people go out into yesterday, they don't go alone. And part of this is that the expectation is that if someone is killed, their body needs to be brought back. It absolutely needs to be brought back. And part of the reason for this is once every cycle, once the village of today lines up with the door and the tower, those bodies, which are kept cocooned and preserved until that cycle, are given back. And that's when, this is the moment when new reborn are conceived.
Oh.
There's a ritual where the dead are given up, the dead of the reborn and the dead of the Ariadne are given, are returned at this ritual at the door. Mm-hmm. And that's also by a sort of weird magical conception, that's when new reborn will be conceived at that moment.
The reborn, are they reincarnates of like someone who might have just died, or is it always like way back peoples?
No, it's always way back peoples.
Okay.
Yeah, Ariadne do not become reincarnated as reborn.
A reborn just keep becoming reborn.
There have been 256. Like you could be an old man and an old reborn and die. And then it's possible that in the next set of reborn that are born in the next great cycle, that it'll be a child version of you is born.
Avatar state. Yep. But what you said that.
And there are never more than one of a given reborn at a given time.
Right. There are always 256 if one doesn't reproduce.
Well, no, not necessarily. There have been 256 seen, but sometimes a reborn will die and not come back.
Yeah.
For a while.
Or there'll be a reborn that is born, which is one that hasn't been seen in generations.
Where do they go?
They live. They live here.
Who knows?
Like, where do they go when they die?
Who knows?
They're returned.
Limbo spot.
Well, they're returned. Their bodies are returned along with any Ariadne who died that year. Are returned
To the tower.
to the tower.
No, I know that. I mean, like, where did they, like, their soul? Where's
That's
that
a
go?
really philosophical question.
There are different opinions on that among the various religious
They're just like
folks.
hanging out, like, there's a couple generations. I'll come back down.
Well, to these people, the founders are basically the gods.
Right.
So they're not really clear what their theories about what the purpose of the reborn, are. And there are even some people who think that we're wasting our time with this stuff, or
Yeah, so I guess then the reborn themselves they don't have recollection of when they're dead.
they have no memories. They have none of the memories of the other lives they have had.
Right. Oh, so they don't remember.
And here's the thing: the reborn, as children, I mean, after they're born from their reborn or Ariadne parent or parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? They are once they're taken to the school, and they're all trained, and their powers are developed at the school. And some of them have different predispositions. Some of them are better warriors. Some of them have greater control of the Numenera.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have their memories, how do you know which one it is?
There are artistic depictions of them, and there are they basically.
So they look alike.
The reborn looks like one of the specific set from the reborn. Yeah,
okay.
And they're documented.
Got it.
All
right.
Wait, I've been very patient.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah.
So
Dave is next.
So today I'm like, stop now. So today is moving. Is today moving constantly, or is there a time like when it jumps? Like if you leave and you're gone for an hour and you come back, it's not where it was before.
No, it moves constantly.
Okay. Is it the type of thing where we can like look and see that it's like moving, or
Relative
is
to
it,
what?
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean there are glyphs and stuff within the structure of the ring itself, which is the ground basically for you. There are not only glyphs related to the Numenera, but there are also markings that were made by previous generations. Some that were glyphs that were left by the founders. However, there are a lot more of them near the door. There are long stretches of the ring where there's no evidence of the founders.
So do the buildings or is today nomadic then? Do you move your establishment daily as you?
Well, all of the buildings and structures and roads are all made up of these web strands, and those strands have anchors, And a lot of the stuff in the actual culture of the people of today revolves around knots, very elaborate knots and weaving and all this. And so there are particular people who are referred to as weavers or shapers. And those people, they help tend, because these things, not only are they the structures that people live in, they also produce food and other things. There are people who, some of them move on their own. Their anchor points move on their own through technology, biology. And then other ones there are some people who are tenders who are basically making sure that is going okay, making sure that the village is moving, and that's a sort of they know that this is existential threat is constantly behind them.
All right.
Got it.
So
Okay, so 3 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1, the 256 reborn. Does that mean that there's 256 specific souls that have been reborn?
Don't use the word souls, because that complicates stuff.
Previous incarnations.
What word would they use?
I think you would use the word souls, but I don't want you to. This is not necessarily a puzzle that you don't have to. Jeez.
No, I'm just trying to understand if that number relates to the amount of reborn that have been reborn, like as just like a physical person, as opposed to one reborn that's come over and over and over. Do you know what I mean? Like if
like the Avatar.
There are 256 Cylon models. We don't always see all models.
There you go.
Okay,
there you go.
That answers my question. 256 Cylon models, but there may have been like 4,000 Cylon.
There's like a 70-year gap between seeing number 46 and then you see him again. Maybe you don't really believe that number 183 has truly gone away, but no one's seen them in like 300.
And there are different sort of noble houses or a political structure and elders, and some families of Ariadne go out of their way to try to recruit a specific reborn into their family. Like there are some families that are like, we want to collect we want to collect the genetics.
Gotta catch them all.
We got to catch them all. And there are other ones like, no, we are dead. Whenever this founder is born, they are part of this clan, and they need to come join this clan.
Fun.
They basically believe that their power is, or their essence is about having the same baseline genetic stuff re-injected into their family over and over again.
You said the reborn are conceived when we line with the door in the tower.
Yeah.
Does that mean that like individuals become pregnant during that time?
Yes.
The normal way?
During the ritual.
During the ritual.
So during the ritual, everyone getting busy.
Right,
So
exactly.
if I'm reborn, my mother could also be my daughter.
Well, here's the thing. I appreciate there are people who do have sex during the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered to be a time of great fertility for everyone.
Orgies,
Right, super propitious.
Right,
yeah.
So we're in. Right, got it.
Yeah, and there are groups and family structure is all over the place. There are people. Sometimes there are families of 3. There are ones with 2 dads, 2 moms, and non-binary people. Like people get together and say we're going to be a family, and then there may be one of them that conceives.
Yeah, cool.
I like
so.
Family dynamics.
What's that?
I said I like these family dynamics.
Yeah, well,
it's
an opportunity to do some stuff that's kind of different.
Like a Disney family where a parent is dead.
So I don't know if it influenced you, but in your description of this and like this world, it's like this world that is just this world, and you don't know anything that's happening outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot. Just to shout out one of my favorite movies, Dark City.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that movie. So
I love that movie too.
Well, but from what you're saying, it's not.
I bet you we have a lot of overlap in what sort of stuff we like as far as science fiction and fantasy. So you'll see things in this game and you'll be like, oh, he bit that from this, but I like it.
Blade penetrates. I already know. But from what you're saying though, it's not even like we don't know what's going on outside of these walls. It's like we can't conceive of a life.
You cannot conceive that there is anything outside of these walls.
This is reality.
Yeah.
Dig it.
Which is why Dark City came to mind. Like,
yeah.
It reminds me too of like the worlds on Halo.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a full-on world. Like when you first start playing that game, you're like, why is there?
There's an old book named Ringworld by Larry Niven, which is a great piece of science fiction. It's got some sort of dated misogynistic ideas in it. It doesn't hold up totally, but but there are good things about it, and I think that was one of the big inspirations for the ring in Halo as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, ring worlds and all that other kind of stuff. I really
I love it.
I love it. Or stuff like Dyson spheres.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are all sorts of cool. In Blame, the manga I was talking about, that one has the world of that is basically they had automated systems to help build things, and they just kind of kept going no matter what was happening with humanity.
Yeah.
And so imagine like an everlasting gobstopper, like the world just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it gets to a point where it envelops the moon.
Yeah.
The moon is now inside this superstructure, the mega structure. There's at one point a character goes into a room that is a cavern that is the size of Jupiter.
What?
So a lot of the stuff that happens in that comic, he's very interested in if things are going to be science fiction, they should be on that kind of scale of like exponential, like numbers and distances and quantities that our minds can't even handle.
Yeah.
You know. So
live your whole life in that guy, right?
yeah,
Golden.
yeah.
So is anyone getting character ideas from this stuff?
Yes, I have a. I
So
have
yeah, let me talk a little bit more about the
I'm really excited about Sam making my character.
I want the story to follow a group of students in the school who now the people in the school are not just reborn. They're not just young members of the reborn. They're also Ariadne, who are considered to be of either exceptional talents or potential. Sometimes it's political getting in there. Sometimes it's because they are particularly pious and religious, and they've shown their families, and they specifically have shown that they are caretakers for the reborn, or helping them develop their powers. Sometimes some Ariadne will try to get one of their children in there to try to learn some of the secrets. You know, like maybe you can learn some of the secrets of the founders from the reborn. You know, so there's this thing. It's the Hogwarts of today, the village of today, that has these reborn in it.
Filthy mudbloods.
But also there are also Ariadne children. But I think I want some of these characters to be between the ages of about 10 and 16.
Okay.
In human terms, I'm going to use words like years, other things like that. I'm not going to be able to erase them all from my speech, but I mean there are 360 cycles in a great cycle, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, let it be understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, roughly.
How do you track
analogous.
time?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to correct people when they say, you know, today or tomorrow or whatever. We'll try to adapt to this sort of little butterfly jar that I've created, you know, and think about it. But yeah, so I like some people to. I'd like at least one or two people to play Reborn, and then I'd also like other people to play maybe Ariadne of a similar age. But if you were interested in an older character, you could be somebody who was a caretaker or somebody who's trying to infiltrate the school for whatever reasons.
I think I want to go Ariadne and be one of the ones going through the coming of age ceremony.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So there might be a character in it who's a reborn or an Ariadne who's in the school, but they're not coming of age yet. You know.
Okay.
And then, but I think at least one person should be. You know.
I'll come of age.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Let's all be school children.
I think it's implied. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably
Almost
better.
some of us are the teachers.
Yeah. It's probably better if at least one of you is not a teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be a teacher.
Yeah. And as far as like
that works with the concept. Yeah.
Or you're a student and just way too charming the pants off your teachers. I'm happy with all
You know
this.
what? You tell me how it's gonna go, Sam. I said blanket consent. So whatever is formulating in your mind.
So, situation-wise, when we start the first game, it is going to be the cycle before the beginning cycle. You know, the alpha, where the ceremony is happening. You know, in the next cycle.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it's New Year's Eve basically.
Right.
And I think
Cycle's Eve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say your Shadowrun needs to start on a holiday. Like all of our games, that should be our trope.
Day
We start
before,
the day
yeah.
before the major holiday
Mhm.
is where our game starts. You know,
The
It's a-
uncommon trust. We love holidays.
there it is.
It's a good reason
And
to have
it's New
something
Year's,
going on that
starting
shows up
tonight.
what's going on in the world.
So
You know. That's for me. That's always it. It's always like this is just a day like any other, and then
Right.
something crazy happens, or like this day is going to be a big deal,
Yep.
and then something crazy happens, or doesn't happen, you know,
Yep,
and then that's a big deal in itself. But yeah, I mean, they're so it's the day before that ceremony. Probably, it's the biggest event of the Great Cycle. You know, I would like excuses. If you can bake into at least some of your characters the idea that they would be amenable to going into yesterday, to have a reason to want to go back, you know, which is super taboo and forbidden, but it can also do with things like maybe you had a child, maybe there was a member of the school, maybe there was a childhood friend who got lost in the Drit and whose body was not reclaimed, and they're really focused on we have to go find so and so's body to make sure that they're reclaimed. You know,
Can't leave.
we can't leave them stuck in this, samsara or whatever. You know, we need to really.
Down.
So building in those sort of motivations, or maybe even the opposite. I mean, maybe a character who's very like, you can't do that. That's we go together and all that sort of stuff. So build in some of those conflicts between each other. You know, about like I want to go, I don't want to go.
I have a question.
Because that may end up being the first session is, y'all in this kind of orphanage school thing, and then, basically either, doing whatever you think you need to do to prepare for the beginning of the Great Cycle.
All right, I'll put this out there. I'd really like if we have an adult, and I'm not saying we even need one, because a bunch of kids doing a bad idea is great. But if we
It's like
have an adult,
Stranger Things, but with post-humans.
Oh my god,
right? Like that does
We're
not.
Kids on bikes.
Stranger Things.
But if we do have,
we're uncommon things.
if we do have an adult, I would love to pair that with motivation to do the taboo and go back into yesterday, because then you don't have like a sensible supervisory adult.
She wants you to play freaking Miss Frizzle.
Yeah.
We're gonna magic school bus.
What?
This piece.
Yes.
Magic school bus.
Yes. Gonna
Or
magic
they-
school bus this piece.
Yeah, I mean, there might be an emphasis, maybe there are multiple adults, and one is much more, we need to, then that one might not even follow you out there, but then there might be another one of like, oh, I've been waiting for my moment to for one of these kids to go out in here, and now I'm gonna, to further my own agenda, I'm gonna enable that.
See, now we don't have to have like. We might have an adult in the room, but not an adult in the room.
Yeah. You never know. I mean, yeah.
Are you asking me to be a terrible adult? Is that what just happened?
I'm perfectly happy to be a terrible adult. Anyone can be a terrible adult,
Sam,
but
you're
just
deciding
if there
my
are
character,
adults, they
so-
should be terrible.
Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of familiar friends in the chat here. We got Librarian Liz, Fennec Wolfchild,
Shout out.
Phoenix Melody. Shout out. We love you, all of you. Abby Marie. Yeah.
Nice.
New faces who I don't recognize.
Hi, new people.
Let's change that.
QueueTimes people, hello.
Yeah. Hello,
Hello,
QueueTimes people. I know
Yes.
this might be a little bit different from what you're used to seeing on this channel, so we hope that you like it.
Cuties?
What's that?
Yeah.
They're cuties.
Yeah, hey Jake.
Cuties.
Are your people cuties?
We keep
Hashtag
debating
cuties.
back and forth what we're gonna call them, and
I think it was just decided they're cuties.
I
think that just
I think the
I only
Uncommon
just had
Trust as a consulting group
Yeah.
is offering you
Yeah.
some feedback.
Yeah, we're also starting a PR firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know a thing or two about Zaz. Yeah.
It needs more sass.
So for the group, I have this idea, and I just want to toss it out there to put my claim on it and see if people want to build off of it or want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been reading through this Numenera Player's Guide about the different archetypes or I think
We'll talk about some of those rules too, but
Yeah.
but I
when we
really
have
want to play a delve.
I think having a delve in the party is a really good idea.
And I really want
describe real quick what a delve is.
A delve is so the descriptor here is delves are willing to risk everything just to find something new, something that no one else has seen before. They're driven to expand the boundaries of the known, often rediscovering what was long forgotten. They delight in finding never explored ruins and yada yada. And there's also a background for them that is part machine, and it happens somehow. So I have this idea of this Ariadne kid who is way too curious and ends up getting too close to the shield. And the shield, the light, the focus does something to them. Yeah. And now that changes them in some way. And they become even more...
Absolutely love it.
more machine. And
more human than
so
human.
let me talk for a second about the basics of how we make characters in this world and how they work in Numenera and also Cipher System stuff in general. The core of it is your character sentence. You know, I'm an adjective, noun, who verbs.
Oh, so it's similar to like your story in Hillfolk.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
I'm a mechanical adept who talks to machines. As a random example.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got a choice of kind of what general character type you are, and then there are other ones that are specific to you. You know, like Poison was just talking about the delve as someone who's very focused on going back into the in this case yesterday.
Into yesterday, yeah.
And then, but you've also got glaives, which are very martial, sort of combat oriented. And it doesn't mean that they don't use the Numenera. Plenty of them incorporated into their bodies, or that's one thing too. Ariadne bodies tend to reject. They tend to be more open to
Numenera
being modified. Now the Numenera, I'm just going to use the words Numenera and ciphers and stuff like that because they belong to this larger world and this larger game. And I mean, if people like this, we can always. Y'all might escape this, or this might just be the starting area, and you might go into other areas, and we might do a big time skip or other things. There are a lot of different things we can do, but so I'll be using those terms. But Numenera, at least in this setting, they refer to the leftovers of the founders, parts of the ring itself, or devices that are built on those, cobbling those technologies together, because. People might not necessarily know how the Numenera work or what their original purpose was. Like this thing that they're using, to create a field might have been a power supply for something that created something that fulfilled some need, which we don't even understand that need. It was from an alien race that they needed this much of this type of particle when the planets align this way, and this is the thing that helped them. This was a cog in the wheel of a machine that made that. But to you, that's nothing, and it's to the point where it couldn't even necessarily be explained to you what it does, because you have no framework for it. You just know what it does in this world now, and there are some people who are more sensitive to it.
It's like a chimpanzee found a particle accelerator fragment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your character is you have a character sentence. I'm a blank who blanks, and you choose the different ones. Some examples of it, like actually, if you can talk about this. You know about this.
I have when I play Callisto 6, which uses roughly the same system, give or take. There are a few changes between Numenera and Cypher, one of which being the character types. But in Callisto 6, I play a mechanical adept who talks to machines. The mechanical is the descriptor. It gives me some particular skills. Specifically, it gives me training in machine tasks. It also adds to my intellect pool. You'll see some of these. It's also where you'll see a lot of inabilities for a character. Mm-hmm. So, for instance,
defines what you're more well disposed towards, and
simultaneously, it's going to be where you see a lot of the drawbacks in the descriptor. So, like a creative character has an inability. It's a step more difficult for lore checks because they're thinking of new ideas. They're not focusing on that old stuff. That happens in the descriptor. The class might be thought of as the character type. For my character, that's the Adept, which is very much like the Nano of Numenera. There's a lot of overlap. There are some different types between these systems and emphasize different things, and it's very common in Cipher supplements. The Adept gives you often magical powers, but that's reflavored per setting. Sometimes it's technology that's doing it. Sometimes, as in Numenera, is kind of a bit of both. And then your focus is where you get a lot of the flavor of the specific thing that someone's good at. Wields 2 weapons, delves too deeply.
Bears a halo of fire.
All of these very vivid ones, which is a great way to get ideas for what you want to do with a character. So that's sort of the broad strokes of the 3 different core components of.
It's a little bit
character
like background, class.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that in other game systems. I got a few other friendly faces I recognize. Celine. I'm Celine. Saying that they want to pick up the Cipher System book. You should.
You should.
And our buddy Jordan Shively, hottest singles.
Oh,
Dread
hey.
Singles is here.
Hey.
Great to see you.
Also,
Yeah.
There was word that you were interested in finding out if we like swag. I'm just telling the world, we like swag. 2 larges, 2 mediums, 2 smalls. That's all I'm saying. Just if anybody was interested.
Yeah. Well, I got to get together with Jordan, and we got to make like a. First, I need a good catchphrase, and then I need that catchphrase on a shirt.
All right. I'll get to work. I know what I'm here for.
It'll come about.
It could be a catch paragraph. I mean,
Well, that's all those death save shirts all have like. scrolls
Congratulations, kids. I
and-
think you guys are the first ones to actually officially hear my sentence. It's pretty well implied, but that's lazy.
Oh yeah, you're right. It said
Reveals right here.
Yeah,
yeah.
C6 spoiler. Mm-hmm.
True.
I have been cleared to do this. I will not get in
Yes.
trouble.
Oh,
Or I will get in trouble.
I think Celine. Did I get her? Did I get their name
Cillian.
wrong? It's what?
Cillian.
Cillian.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
Gotcha.
Gesundheit.
All right.
It's a lot to
Yeah,
keep
so
track
that's
of.
our character
Yeah,
sentence.
Jordan says we'll make our merch. So
All right.
there you go.
Let's character this.
All right. So let me go over the 6 basic. What are they called? Types. I talked about glaive briefly. Those are the very martially oriented ones. Those people tend to have. You have 3 different abilities, which are might, speed, and intellect.
And this is everybody has this?
This is for all characters in the world. You have these 3 different things. Might is physical prowess, endurance. It's really a catch-all. It's your strength, your dexterity, constitution. Well, actually, not so much dexterity, but strength and constitution kind of bundled into one.
Yeah.
If you're comparing it to D&D. So you've got might, and glaives are very might-oriented, but they also will also often use speed. And speed is reflexes. If you can think of any other things that I'm missing here.
Oh yeah, no,
just
absolutely.
Interrupt me at any point.
Acrobatics, movement, balance. Also, worth noting, most combat dodges are speed defense tasks. You'd think maybe might. Might is a lot more like constitution.
Yeah.
So you might make a might defense against poison. So finding speed defense somewhere in your build is a thing often. That's your dodge.
Yeah, might and speed, and then intellect isn't just braininess; it's also social stuff as well. So just because you have a high intellect pool doesn't necessarily mean you're a brilliant sage. It could be that you're just very glib,
Very smart and not social.
Yeah, but so there's the first type. There is the glaive. Then there is the nano, and the nanos are basically the closest thing to spellcasters that exist, and they are much more involved with using Numenera and ciphers than anybody else. This is the closest thing there are to wizards in this. Let's see, and then there are jacks. And jacks are, I guess, jack of all trades, in a way. They can be party faces, they can be more like rogues, but they don't necessarily... I mean, you could have someone who is a respected leader in the community and is a jack,
Reborns would be like a new jack.
Well, goodbye. No, I'm done.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
perfectly balanced,
Ash
as all
won.
things should be.
It's over.
Yeah, if this system had DM inspiration in it, I would give it to you for that. That was excellent.
Bravo.
No, new jack, hustler. New jack, hustler.
You can just slide here like 1 XP.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another way that things work in this game. Is that XP is given out in these sort of cards, but the way it works is I do something that's called an intrusion. where I throw a little complication into the story. It isn't necessarily always something bad, but it's something that always just makes it, there's more going on. There's more going on. And then you, the person who I'm giving this XP to, they actually get 2. They keep 1 for themselves, and then they give the other to another player, and they have to justify why they're doing that. They say, oh, so-and-so made a great joke, or I liked it when so-and-so's character did this, and that really moved the story along, so I'm giving them this XP. So you're accepting this intrusion, and out of it, you're generating these XP cards, which you can use at the end of a game to, or at the end of a campaign, to level your character, to gain new abilities. And once you've leveled up enough new abilities, you get to a new tier as well. Level-wise, it's not like there are 20 levels in this. There are like 6 tiers. You can get the story is not super dependent necessarily on like I need the characters to get powerful enough to do the cool shit. Like you will be doing cool shit at tier 1, no problem. And you'll also run into one-use items that let you do super powerful things, which you may not totally understand, and then they're expended as a cipher. So I just lost my train of thought completely.
So that was Jax.
Okay,
Next
yeah,
there,
Jax.
Arcus.
So there are 3 new types which are introduced in the new edition of Numenera. The new Numenera doesn't invalidate any of the old books. The new Numenera, Neo Numenera. Now they have 2 books called Discovery and Destiny. And they did that because originally they thought they did a really good job of the original Numenera release of having these people in this world go out and discover the relics of the past. But they wanted to, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be about these people's lives and what they do now. You know, what are they building for the future? How are they continuing? How are they trying to become the 9th world, really, this new civilization? And so they add additional stuff in that. The Destiny book has a lot of rules for vehicles, building settlements, and but it also introduces these 3 new types, which I'm thinking we should probably offer y'all as options to play in this. It'll make it a little more complicated, but it's not like I know even the core rules that well anyway. So let's just jump it all in there and let people do what they want.
Complications.
I got this. I was made for this moment.
Yeah. Also, people watching, if you're familiar with the Cipher System or you see something mechanically inconsistent in the game, you are welcome to at me on Twitter and here.
You're like, don't at me, but do it.
Do at me. Do at me, because I want to see, there are times, I'm not a sort of roll things behind the screen, fudge things, and in this game system you can't really, almost all the rolls are made by players.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you roll to attack a monster, if it's a level 2 monster, that's it. That determines what you roll. You know, it's not something. I don't ever roll to defend, and I don't ever roll to attack. You just roll to defend. You know, so it's almost all in the hands of the players, which I really like, because it basically means that I can't sort of fudge things behind the scenes, you know, to go easy on people.
Yes. You gotta publicly intrude and give us our XP.
Yeah.
There's like a werewolf bear shark thing on page 78 of Numenera Discovery, and I'm here for it. For the record to show that if you've got Numenera Discovery, werewolf bear shark.
In general, the art for Numenera is incredible, and they do a really good job of making it doesn't look like anything else. It's really unique.
Yeah.
I mean, the closest I can think is a lot of it, to me, reminds me of sort of Sword and Planet things, that kind of like John Carter. Or they also do a really good job of making sure that there is a lot of good representation for everybody in the character types. You will find characters who are like you in those books, as far as skin color, you know, everything you can imagine. So there are the next 3 types, which I'm finally getting onto now, are after the glaive, the nano, and the jack, are the Arcus, which is someone who's very socially oriented and community oriented, and then there are also the Right, like WRIGHT, and those are people who are really focused on crafting things out of ciphers and out of Numenera. Whereas a Nano, they might be kind of using a lot of that stuff to access forgotten net spheres or data webs. Or maybe they're manipulating nanotechnology that's just present in the environment to accomplish their powers. But a Right is actually building things with the different things. And then you get the Delve, which is the one that Poisel was interested in, and they are very focused on going out there and reclaiming the stuff. Yeah. They may not be as expert on what to do with it, but they definitely know how to get it.
Yeah. Is our sentence a secret? Because I totally have mine.
What do you think? I think.
I think Session Zero talking about it is.
Yeah.
It would be impossible to circumlocute and have a Session Zero at the same time. Part of having this filmed is having the
Let's do that. Let's do that for the yeah.
I mean,
share the thing,
Welcome
B-Dave.
behind the
Fennec Wolfchild
I
says.
have the thing. I have it. You ready?
Okay.
Reborn. I'm Rottingham Brinklet. I'm a charming artist that crafts illusions.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So you
Arcus, right? Or
Arcus.
an Arcus. So you
is that
you
from
use you're basically like a storyteller who creates visual and auditory things for people to drive your point home to illustrate. That is going to be very, very cool.
Yes.
So I encourage you to, if you don't know stuff about the world,
Which you don't.
make it up. And if something openly conflicts with like no this is actually what that's called,
Then you'll throw something at it.
then I will ask you to leave. But
Make a speech
no, I won't. I just mean that I want to put. Don't be afraid about being wrong. About like, oh, I don't know Alcuin's world very well, and I don't want to jump out. You can ask me if it's like this, or if you would know. But in many cases, if you make it up, and I think it's okay. I'm like 99% of the time I'm going to go with it.
I also like the idea of being wrong about things sometimes. This came up a lot about We're Live.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to make these grand sweeping declarations about the world that are just inaccurate, but
Yeah.
I believe it. So,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And there are a lot of things which everybody probably accepts as dogma in this world, which are not accurate. Yeah.
This is the whole world, for instance.
For example, yeah.
Mhm.
So those are the different types. And we'll talk about. You can look at the lists of descriptors. It's often best to just sort of find which one of those you latch onto first, and then build the other ones around it. You're like, oh, I really like this descriptor, or I really like this focus. What's a good combination with those two? And I really like the two concepts that we've already got kind of brewing. Right here, or the two that have been articulated. I'm sure you're all brewing on something.
Although, Sam, does that scratch the itch that was requested of me if I'm a charming artist that crafts illusions?
It very much does. Just so y'all know, before the show started, we were sitting here, I was wildly researching, and we were hearing about what B-Dave was thinking of maybe doing, and I was like, I would love to see him play a social, which is something that he has done before in many other shows, but not with me.
Yeah.
It's true.
And I want it with me.
It's true. And we said this is Sam's AU. This whole show is Sam's
Apparently
AU.
that's what's happening,
Yeah.
allegedly.
Also, I just got crazy, brutal deja vu of hearing Sam right then and seeing what was on my screen right then. It's like all of this has happened before and will happen again moment.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, what an illusionist.
Mhm.
Exists in...
I have my
Out of
theory.
phase
I have
is
my
also-
theories as to why that, but we'll save that for another time.
I have a thought on a sentence, but I want to make sure that I want to run it by Sam.
Oh, also, do you want? I have the discovery rulebook on this iPad. If you wanna look at it too, if you want your own.
I also like knowing rules, or just being told rules.
Yeah.
It just transported across the room based on that. It's like, what?
Yeah, it is within my power.
I was-
Sorry, y'all. I'm sweaty. It's just I'm a sweaty.
Well,
It's a
sweaty
little
dude.
warm, and he's got a ring light, so it's extra warm.
My
No.
thought was that I would be a reborn, that once reborn, people put me into this, oh, this is what you were before, this is what you're going to do again, and my whole life has been no, you don't know me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my thought was, I'm an impulsive glaive who questions authority.
Okay.
Way to play against type there, Ash. Yeah.
Is there a questions authority focus?
Now, in your case, how old do
I
you
don't know
want?
where the
do you,
focus is.
you two? What age-wise were you
I
thinking?
wanted to be coming of age. That was
Okay.
16-ish or
So
14-ish?
15, yeah.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
Which supplement had the Arcus in it so I can read that?
It's in both this player's guide and it's also
Arcus, yeah.
the Arcus is in this player's guide and it's also in Numenera Destiny.
Okay.
So.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I was 15,
I have to use
16.
official
Yeah,
words.
we'll figure it out. I will let you use my copies in some cases, or who knows? We can even talk to the folks at Monty Cook and see if they want to
Monty
help us
Cook.
with any of that
You
stuff.
can also reflavor
Yeah.
an existing focus. Just look at what the tier 1 ability is for a given focus, and if that looks like a thing that would be questions authority, then that's a thing now.
Yeah.
Like, the words don't have to be the same words every time, as long as the mechanics are the same.
Yeah.
It's a storytelling system.
Personal.
So your character, Dave.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
They probably you have the potential to become this great leader type, and you're definitely like, whether it's class clown or head of the evil student council,
Can I be head of the Mean Girls?
You can be head of the Mean Girls.
Yes. Play a
Oh
heel.
my god,
I like
I
it.
love that.
Do it.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm gonna be the head Mean Girl. Yes.
So you pick the character, and then what's the next?
You've already got some ideas for your sentence?
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't like any of the books, any of the PDFs. He doesn't have
Yeah.
one of them.
All right, so
I'm just
like,
kind of like picking and like
Yeah,
going around.
and we'll make sure you have everything and you're happy with it.
what like
during
character
the week before
archetype are
actually
you
play.
feeling? Like a heavy or like a spellcasty kind of
I
person?
really
social.
like the glaive.
All right.
I really like the glaive. I just like the whole, especially that perfect setup thing. You just go in,
Yeah.
and super badass. You know,
That's a neat.
3 people done in an instant kind of thing.
So we talked a little bit about some of this stuff, but once I go through kind of what the basics of people are feeling, I'll talk a little bit more about the system.
Okay.
So you're looking at glaive, right? Do we more interested in playing Reborn or Ariadne?
I was actually really interested with the Reborn because I have like a fun concept for it.
Okay.
So I was like thinking about it. I was thinking that, like you said, that I don't know if I'm supposed to say why you're supposed to go to yes today, but I was thinking that maybe this person that becomes reborn, because you said there's no recollection, right?
You don't have the memories of any other versions of you that have existed.
And so I was basically, because you said there's founders like artifacts.
Although there
out
are rumors that some powers and abilities have gotten stronger from one generation to the next of Reborn.
Totally.
But not knowledge.
Totally. I'm not gonna play it so we don't get sued into dust. But I totally have Black Eyed Peas yesterday stuck in my head. I'm gonna go back to yesterday. I'm gonna go back.
Well,
to
you can. That's the thing is, if you're singing it, it's a performance. Of
yeah.
So
You still need to get rights for that.
Oh, okay. We'll change a few things and make it a parody.
I think it's 3 seconds, and that's what. I was,
The
All right,
rights are
we're
a
good.
character type.
So so the name I'm playing around with might change, but Proletia or Peri, which is
Mhm.
just 3 different Latin words smashed together.
Yeah.
Which means tortured lost soul.
Okay.
So
And for some
All-
magical reason,
all the
that's what
girls
it
are
means
like,
in this world's language as well.
what?
Do you want it to mean that in
Yes,
this world as
100%.
well? Okay.
Yeah, if that's a thing, then yes.
All right.
Um,
We'll make it a thing.
Heck yes. Heck yes. So basically,
I'm split between two.
and what I'm thinking is that the reason why they want to go back into yesterday is to find out who they were and why there's so much mystical belief behind the reborn and
Yeah.
what really is.
So I just want to add one thing here for you guys that are watching us with this session 0. Like a lot of times you see these games when we play, like you see the finished product of where we all just like show up, cut out a full cloth. Like this really is the thing we go through where we're kind of like, I'm kind of thinking this and you're kind of thinking that, and oh maybe we're brothers and maybe we used to date and all of that. Like this is kind of a vital. I mean,
put that on you.
so you know, I'll leave
I
you.
thought we were brothers.
I will leave you for him. Don't test me.
Yeah, and you are welcome.
16-year-old.
You're welcome to create pre-existing relationships of friendship, indifference, enmity, interest between each other, or if you need a specific NPC out in the world, who's like, I need my dad to be like this, and him to be here and existent or whatever. We will totally do that. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Maybe there's something that's calling.
Yeah.
You feel some sort of call.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
that's what I was going to ask you too. Is what's the limits of that whole the founders kind of in the yesterday, like the artifacts and kind of like the glyphs and stuff.
Well, here's the thing: is
Obviously, I'm
you
still learning all these things
as members of the school, you are exceptional. You are you know, whether you're an instructor or you just work there, or or you're one of the students, Ariadne or Reborn. You are you are exceptional. So yeah, that's what the story is about. What's happening to you, your heroes. You know?
So exceptional.
So you're the center of it, you know, and whatever we need to do to make you the center of it, that's what it'll be. You
We're
know,
the center, not you.
Yeah.
it will not be without conflict.
It's not
I warn
option that you
you.
get to be the center of
We're
things.
Moonanites.
But yeah, so that, I'm playing around with that.
That's good. That's good. I'm already getting some interesting emergent ideas. That's one of the reasons why I like to do this, is because I can. How I frame the story and what sort of opportunities I give you is based on what you're telling me now. You know, if I find out that no one really went for this particular archetype or wasn't that interested in this thing, then I don't focus on that. I focus on whatever y'all are most interested in.
Can I put something to the group though? If I'm going to be head mean girl, and I'm super into being head mean girl, are we all mean girls, or am I mean to you guys too? Because that's an important point.
Well, it might not be a settled point. Just to one person's perspective, they might think they're in the in group,
Right.
but in fact they're not.
Yeah. Right.
So I think oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add on top of that. There's also the mean girl that does the like popular from Wicked.
I want to be a puppet.
You are definitely a
love
loser,
that
but I'm
song.
going to make you cooler because this serves me.
I like that too.
Got
So
it.
like,
I like that too.
yeah,
I
there
feel
there are spaces.
A variety of
Because there's
emotions.
no version of this where I'm cool.
And this is
I like-
this is totally a Session Zero thing. We talk about all the shit that we like
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's like in this movie, or like that's in this song or this book or whatever.
And I feel like I'm totally going to be a little bit more outcasty, just because I have my sentence, I think, now.
What's yours?
I'm a risk-taking delve that fuses flesh and steel.
Yeah.
That's so metal.
I was looking at that.
Literally.
I almost went with the last bit of acts without consequence.
Oh yeah, I see that one.
But the inability that comes with risk taking is you're hindered at being sneaky. And
Yeah.
acts without consequence makes you better at being sneaky.
So they kind of cancel each
And
other
they
out.
kind of cancel each other out, and so I was
Yeah.
like, I'd rather lean into being bad at sneaky and just being
Brash.
brash and being
Also.
like one as the delve and being part machine, being very like outsider because of that, but then leaning into that.
Now-
of, like
You might have said a little bit about this earlier, but your motivation for being a delve is that you want to find out more about this stuff because it's how you were changed.
yes,
Right.
and is now an integral part of me.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good
I'm
motivation.
waiting
Yeah.
for it too.
So
Yeah.
you can take that.
Then
I'll need to
that's
grab the
what
numbers out of it at
Yeah.
some point,
That's what I'm
but
gonna do. It's good. Listen. I'm just gonna
Okay.
take pictures of my stuff.
So
What do you?
Ariadne, reborn. Coming of age. How old are you? What are you feeling?
coming of age, or maybe would I still be allowed in the school?
Oh no, you're in the yeah.
'Cause you're
You
special.
you could be an Ariadne who's coming of age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But no, I mean like with the things that have happened to me.
The rationale is like if they're reborn, or if they're talented, or if it's like a political thing.
Yeah,
There are all sorts of reasons for why
or maybe
you
they
can
just
be in
really
this.
want to keep an eye on me because I got too close to the shield and these weird
I
things
mean,
happened
you.
to me.
How about this? You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You might have your suspicions.
Yes.
Yes.
You don't know why you're
Fuck,
here.
yes.
No. Yeah.
I mean, you hope that it's because they think that that what happened to you was maybe not an accident. Maybe it was the will of the founders.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that there's something special in you.
Yeah.
I don't want to force anybody to play something they don't want to, but we do have a lot of reborn, and
I'm. So this is what you guys are going to see in me making a character. You might have noticed I'm not pitching anything because what I often do is see where the fill-in is. So I will be taking an Ariadne.
Mhm.
I was inclined toward it anyway because I always like playing like the 94%. It just appeals to my like John Rawlsian veil of ignorance thing.
Yeah.
What's the world like if you're a muggle?
Shitty.
And so I'm definitely playing
Yes,
that, and
I
it
know.
sounds like we're in the market for a nano. So,
Okay.
alas, I'm playing the wizard archetype, you all.
How
It shows you.
It
Yeah.
was
shows
just
you.
what was the fill-in.
It shows you.
Like, it's not my
Now,
fault, y'all ain't wizards.
age-wise,
Well,
we have multiple
Why
people
did
who are
you
interested in
guys
being
That's what I'm
of
figuring out.
who are. Is there anyone who wants to be coming of age this cycle?
Sure. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we can.
We can't. Oh,
I
yeah.
said we
We can
can't.
two first.
You can't be two.
3.
Okay.
Well, that if it doesn't work, that's okay.
I'd probably not want to have more than 2 people who are coming of age
I don't
this
need
cycle.
to if the 2 of them want to do it. Like it's whatever you require.
Super easy, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
I drew my sentence, by the way. My actual one as opposed to my made up one.
Okay. What's your actual one?
I'm a strong-willed glaive who acts without consequence.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, you just
How very like me.
you're stubborn, but
Oh, yeah, you're
it just
winning it.
works for you. Things just tend to it just seem to turn out okay for you. Yeah. All right. So yeah, well, ideally, I'd like to have at least one of the reborn be one who's a little younger, like maybe 10 or 11.
Do that?
Yeah.
If you, or is that?
Yeah,
Sure.
you strong-willed child view.
You're just reckless and young. I love it.
You know
But-
the like
But you have
Right,
incredible promise.
immediately before you're a teenager is like actually often the worst teenageriness.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
It sounds like that's what you're sitting at.
I hate all of you. Let's go play.
Yeah.
So like that sounds perfect.
Now, as far as I see, we have multiple glaives and we have a delve as well. What's proposed for you, when you get out of school would be that you would join the retakers, or actually maybe that's not the right word. There's an organization of delves, glaives, filling different roles who do go into yesterday. There are also glaives who who are purely they help defend today from creatures who come in. But in general, it's unusual. It's unusual for things to come out of yesterday to attack today. But there have been more incidences of that sort in the past cycle than there have ever been in any previous cycle. Before, it was just that people would be you would have to go into yesterday, and those people could get attacked and provoked. And the people who describe these creatures, it's like they're born from the ring itself. It seems almost like they're kind of procedurally generated in response to stimulus.
Okay.
Something will, like, you'll see maybe a blister the size of a sarcophagus forms on the ground ahead of you, and with a hiss, it pops open, and you see a four-limbed creature with a jaws filled with crystalline teeth and a single monocular eye,
First,
emerges from it.
no. but second, so the actual tunnels that we find ourselves in, what's the...
Well, the tunnel.
The tunnel, right, which is the world, life.
Yeah.
What is its consistency like? Is it kind of like a H.R. Geiger type thing?
Very.
Does it feel biological?
It's a mixture of the areas near the door and the tower are many more features and details and bits of Numenera that you don't really necessarily understand, because some Numenera are it's not just a small object. You can have Numenera that are the size of a ship or a building or a planet or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the areas that are in yesterday they vary a certain amount, but the environment itself, a lot of the references that you're making are very good ones, like H.R. Giger. Some of it even kind of like 2001 kind of stuff. Like, there are areas where the floor and the walls and stuff are, panels with just very light glyphs in them.
So, understanding that, of course, danger lurks around every corner, do we feel like our home of today is a relatively safe place? Or do we feel it's a relatively not safe place?
I think that depends a certain amount on your own personality, or how optimistic or cynical you are. I will say, however, that the history so far, the recorded history of this culture so far, has been a lot more stable than what we're seeing now. There have been big events in the past, like one cycle, a group of people took over and decided that they weren't going to offer any bodies to the door. There have been political struggles. There's been upheaval within the community. But when it comes to aggression and attacks from the environment, things are worse than ever.
Got it. And is this the kind of place where, before we walk down the alley, we would like freeze and make sure because I know we go together, but is it the type of place where it's sort of like we walk home from school by ourselves?
Well, here's the thing: if you're in the school, if you're reborn, you've been in the school your whole life.
Your face.
Just
If you're one of the reborn, you have been in the school your whole life, and you also have probably been shielded to a degree from what the actual experience is like. You don't know specifically how bad things are. But of course,
legit, like
you're
Hogwarts.
You're precocious.
Right.
Some of you may have figured out that there's other shit going on, or that things are
Right.
worse, and you are being prepared for roles in the community to help defend or to help explore. So you know that conflicts do exist. But I think it's up to you, and to some degree as individuals, how much you think, it's an adventure, and how much like, oh my, this is terrible. Like, we're on the cusp of an apocalyptic event.
I don't mean to say the wrong thing about the wrong place, but I mean it's the difference between walking down the streets of Burbank and walking down the streets of Iraq. That's what I'm trying to get a vibe for. Like, is it the kind of thing where it's like you can walk to the store and it's no problem, or like you walk to the store like like an RPG might come.
Where you are in the physical location of the school, as well as a lot of the inner clusters of the web, those areas are considered safe and well defended.
Right. I mean, I fully expect something awful to happen. I'm just saying to what extent.
And also,
do I care?
when it comes to interpersonal conflict and crime, things like that, they exist in the world, but I'd say it's generally considered safe and stable. There are different groups that are, I think
I get it. I understand.
unless you have a specific experience or a lot of connection to overhearing specific conversations from adults,
Got it.
you would probably think that, I mean, you've been told that you're the children of the future.
Got it. Because we are.
And that
you say we've been
I believe
told
that the children are our future.
Right. And we got to teach them well and let them lead the way.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a very Arcus thing to say.
Got it.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the other rules of how the game works, basics-wise. We talked earlier about how you've got these 3 different abilities, might, speed, and intellect. Those have an actual pool. They have a number. And then they also have, you can have a rating in them that's called an edge. If you have a pool in something, like let's say you have a might pool of 14, that pool it's kind of your hit points, as well as what you use for other things. Like if you try to use a might-related power, it might have a cost. But if you have an edge in that, like you might have an edge of 1, or actually, I should just backtrack a bit as far as like, how do you determine whether something works or not in this system? And it's that you roll. It has a difficulty, and you try to roll over that difficulty with a 20-sided die, right? So I set the difficulty of something. And the difficulty of something is then multiplied by 3, and that's the target number. So if I say something's difficulty 3, you need to roll a 9 or better in order to succeed, right? But there are different things that can change that difficulty before you calculate the target number. You might be trained in an ability. Maybe you're trying to do something that you're trained in. That lets you reduce the difficulty by 1 step before it gets multiplied. You can also have something that those are called assets. So basically, we're trying to figure out. I've got a difficulty in my head of how hard something is, and they go up to 30. Something that's a difficulty of 10 has a target number of 30. It's basically impossible but in very specific situations, you can make those things happen. Maybe you have a power that lets you reduce the difficulty by this, and you're using a cipher that lets you reduce it by this. And then, there are other things that set it up. So there are ways to hit those target numbers.
You have to use the force.
Yeah.
Manipulates forces of focus, and I'm looking at it right now. What?
There are also so you've got these 3 different abilities, and then you've got a pool in them, and you spend points from that pool you can spend them to do something called effort. And effort is another thing that lets you reduce You can be like, I really, really need to do this. I'm going to spend a point of effort on it. And tier 1 characters can only spend, they have to spend 3 points from their pool in order to get 1 level of effort. As you get to higher tiers, you can get to the point where you get a level of effort for free in certain actions and other things like that. But you also get to the point where you can even choose to spend even more effort. Like someone who's tier 3, is it tier 3 that you can use 3 levels of effort?
You should be able to do it by halfway through tier 2, because part of advancement is you gain the next tier levels piecemeal. And so if you stacked all of your edge, and we'll get to edge in a second, consistently, you might start as a nano with 1 intellect edge, then as part of your tier 1 advancement, take a second edge. Yeah. And then when you get to tier 2, do the same thing again for that part of the advancement. Yeah. And then you would get a full level of effort for free. I haven't thought about this ever before.
So we have to use
First time.
maximum effort.
Maximum effort.
But as tier 1 characters,
that
pretty
is,
much for the whole thing are maximum effort going to want.
Yeah. Right. So in any given ability, you may have an edge in it. It's just different than your pool. Like if you're a nano, you have an intellect. You start out with an intellect edge of 1, and that basically means if you use an ability that would require you to spend 2 points to use it, 2 intellect points from your pool, you get it for only 1 point by spending. Basically it's a discount. You get a discount on all your buys with that ability.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, actually, let me grab.
I have my actual sentence now.
Oh, okay.
If you'd like to hear.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I just picked what was fun.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
We are playing a game after all.
Yes. It says, I'm a clever glaive who never says die.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
That's a really good build. I'm into it.
I like how different your characters will end up being, even if you're both reborn, and both glaives.
We're like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Touch me.
because I'm not clever. I'm just really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a descriptor in character options too called insolent. I thought of you.
Oh, yeah.
Insolent.
Instinct. You
True.
food.
I need to go through all of the descriptors and stuff and see if I can try to make one. Like when you try to build yourself as a character in a game system?
Insolent made you think of that?
Yes.
Insolent.
Obstinate.
Exactly.
It's definitely the first thing I tried to do with the system. Okay, done.
It's a big temptation.
Well, there's a murders focus and everything. Wait, no. Zach's told me to stop confessing to crimes. I'm done.
Yeah.
Just not on stream. Don't confess on stream.
I thought the murders focus was so funny, just to be like, I'm a blah 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 who murders.
I'm not considering it.
Okay.
Are there like sports and such at said school? Because I'd like to be a jock.
It's like,
There-
like
There are games.
Yeah.
And a lot of those games are popular with people who are more physically oriented in general. I think they started out as training.
Yeah.
And some of them split off into no longer being sort of combat sports and being, so the same way that something like American football or whatever, like there are elements of it that look like drills for training.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are sports. Here's the thing: if you want to be a jock, you need to come up with a sport.
I can just come up with a sport?
You need to make up the sport.
Okay.
And not just the name. I need you to be able to understand how it's played and all that
Oh,
stuff.
I already have one in my mind.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Quidditch up in this
Is
piece.
it murder
All right.
ball?
Murder ball.
It's
ball.
murder
That's an
ball.
existing sport.
Sam could be captain of the murder ball team.
Us-
Yes.
Go.
Okay,
I've
so
never been captain.
I'm not locking into anything now, but I'm just testing the waters here. I think we've got one reborn character who's. Were you interested in being younger? Being one of the younger ones?
That's what you need. I will.
That would be helpful to me.
I'll fill that.
I think it would also be quite different from stuff I've seen you play before.
Yeah.
Too. So that's a
I've
bonus.
never been a 10-year-old.
Yeah. You could be 10 or 11.
An obstinate battle 10-year-old.
Obstinate battle 10-year-old.
I'm very knifey.
Yeah.
So you're
I've played a knife child before. It's real.
Yeah.
Right.
Another difference in your glaives might be, besides the age, could also be that maybe you see a clear path for yourself to being a member of this force that protects people when they go out into yesterday or defends the today.
Yeah.
You might have a clear idea of kind of like your ROTC or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
know you know,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. whereas you might just be like, you know, I just want to fuck shit up,
Yeah.
you know, or like I don't even know how I fit into these roles of these hierarchies. I mean, partly because you're really young. I mean,
I like the idea of my being reborn as someone who's like really banal, and it's just like, you're gonna be the best teacher ever, and I'm like, no, I'm 9 feet.
yeah, super nasty. Yeah. Okay. So I'm starting to understand a lot of the dynamics here. And then Dave, your character is going to be a reborn who is coming of age. So you're probably 15 or 16, and then you. What do you think your character's general goals are? Do you just want to be the queen of the school, or?
I want to be the center of attention.
Okay.
Ooh,
Are you very driven by
nice.
your immediate needs, or do you have a long-term plan of how you see yourself in the world?
Hey man, we're always running from yesterday. So it doesn't really make much sense to me to be thinking too far ahead.
Yeah.
Especially since one of the things I noticed with Clever is like you don't really like pay attention to like facts and knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't really care too much about any
So
of
I mean,
that.
the way if you were talking about that in character, you would say something like I don't think of next cycle.
Yeah.
Like let's try to avoid using tomorrow, today, and yesterday,
Because this is where we are.
except as descriptions of
Places.
geography.
So is there not a
Night and day?
Yeah.
No.
So do we sleep?
Yes.
Okay, so what do we call, or do we call that anything?
Downtime.
The difference between waking and sleeping.
People will say early cycle or late cycle.
But isn't a cycle
Relative
a full cycle?
That's the great cycle.
That's the great cycle. Okay, so a day is a cycle, and a year is
Yeah.
the great cycle.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. Again, I have not figured all of this out completely. So if it sounds inconsistent, if you find a horrible flaw in my narrative, please let me know about it.
Haven't yet.
It's all
And
forming in real time.
Yeah.
Thus far, it's pretty awesome.
Okay. I'm glad you like it, and I think that especially if you look at some of the other kind of inspirations that I've mentioned behind it, you'll kind of see where I'm going with this. So
I do love how sort of like
aesthetic wise and tone wise.
like abstract and sort of like very different it is, and yet we're still like, I want to be a jock and I want to be the mean girl. Like we're getting very like.
Well, I think some of those things are sort of universal,
Yeah.
Sure.
and
Well, it helps me understand.
no matter how
think
weird,
it's
no matter how
fun.
weird it is, we need to have language to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people who are watching need to be able to understand it.
A common
So.
nomenclature.
Yeah.
Cool cat.
Until I say words like nomenclature.
All right. So, Poisel, you said your character was interested in being a sort of coming of age
Don't have this, and I think
Yes.
age,
I was thinking.
but you are an
maybe,
Ariadne. Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking, or either coming of age or maybe a little younger, like 13.
Okay. So this may not be your cycle,
Yeah.
but there might be one coming up.
Like if you want someone else that is coming of age now, like I'm fine with that too. Like that.
I think it's more interesting if we have two people coming of age,
Okay, yeah.
two who are not.
Yeah.
Wait, so I am or I am not? I don't care. So you tell me.
I'm trying to think.
Oh, you're a character who needs attention and needs something to prove. A moment, if the story takes place at a moment where you're supposed to be center of attention, it's going to be super charged, like emotionally for you. It's going to matter a lot.
Maybe if other people are want to go off and do dangerous stuff, you're like, the cycle before the great cycle begins again. You're like, don't fuck this up for me.
Let's be honest.
Like, be a
Even if
bridezilla, you know?
Even
Yeah.
if it's not my time, I'm going to make it about me, so I just
Yeah.
kind of
So let's do that. Let's have
Yeah.
Poisel's character be not coming of age this cycle. I mean, in fact, you may be relatively new to the school.
Okay.
You know.
Because of what happened.
Yeah.
And now I'm tossed into the school.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. I like having some difference.
Because I have
You know.
a feeling I have
Yeah.
this kind of like
That's my-
goth outsider perspective.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
That's on brand.
yeah.
Sam, have you got any other bits fallen into place?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a lot of youngsters around the coming of age or looking to come of age.
Yeah.
So I'll be the oldster.
Okay.
I'm a mystical nano who manipulates force.
Okay.
Because this is a place where talents and powers and abilities go wild and go haywire. I'm the Guardian.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Like putting up barriers or
That is the
containing
manipulate
things.
force power, is to create a bubble, and the idea of the adult sort of like job to save them from themselves.
Okay.
Whether or not my character fits that, spoiler alert, they
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're sort of like,
What are you reading?
it's half like a custodial job at the school,
Yeah.
but also it takes a tremendous amount of talent and skill, and there aren't a lot of people who can do it, and that's why I'm there.
The general lifespan of people in this world, for the reborn, it's a lot like us. It's, you're lucky to see 100, but for the Ariadne, it's actually usually longer. They tend to live longer, but they mature at the same rate. So you reach adulthood,
So
you're
you
just an
get
adult for longer.
super old, like 100 to 150 is just like super old?
Yeah.
Okay, done. I'm down.
Wait, you're super old?
Yes.
You don't have to
Are
be.
you like decrepit?
But here's the thing:
Apparently.
dependent on lifestyle and stuff, most of the leaders and the people who consider themselves kind of old in this community are still really about 50, 60, because one of the things. There aren't just monsters in Yesterday. It's also filled with radioactive, what they call drit. And drit is basically components of the previous worlds and particles and all that stuff that's just been ground down. So it's very dusty, and it's radioactive dusty. And in general, I think that the Ariadne are more resistant to these radiations and cancers and stuff than the Reborn are. But if you're someone, even wearing a filter skin, if you are someone who goes into Yesterday as part of your job, you will live a shorter life. That's just it.
You'll have a more glorious life.
Yeah.
Well, some see it as glory. Some see it as, and here's the other thing too. Some people believe that they're going to be reborn anyway. Yeah.
What mechanism is keeping us safe as we're making our way through the tunnels? Because the apocalyptic hellscape that is Yesterday is literally where we were yesterday. So like
We move faster.
You stay ahead of it.
Oh, yeah.
You stay ahead of it.
The suck
Yeah.
is chasing us, right? So the suck is also
The suck is chasing you,
right. Yeah,
and
okay.
then there's
But we're also chasing the suck.
right.
there's also the power of the gods that's behind this shield.
Yeah,
It seems to have some sort of relationship to it,
right.
and that is what is moving.
That's what's behind the shield, though.
Yeah,
And that is
behind.
behind-
That is what is
That's
behind the
behind
That's
shield.
what is behind. Well, now we know.
See, all the Ox Crew people who showed up are getting extra treats
They're
on
like,
this.
"What?" Yeah.
On this.
I have a question,
Uh-huh.
and this might be like delving into like a potential plot thing, or
Did you already figure out the whole story?
No.
100%.
It's always a risk when you play with them.
Has anybody tried to go so far into Yesterday that they come back around to tomorrow?
I was curious.
No.
Or
Okay.
at least they didn't come back.
No.
'Cause
Anyone?
that's,
Anyone?
I mean, that's
Yeah.
360 cycles worth of space.
Yes.
That'd be a lot of Yesterday.
Yeah.
All of our Yesterdays.
But who knows if you get, like,
Well, I mean-
maybe they exist
Well, here's-
and then
here's
they
the
get
other thing,
smashed
too.
into the
Eventually,
lens.
Here's the other
as you keep
thing.
Moving, eventually tomorrow comes to you.
Yesterday might just be a patch.
Right. And
Yeah,
And then
what
when you-
exists beyond Yesterday?
Well, then you might get into tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow might be unfiltered. That light might be too
Destructive.
much.
Yeah, as far as we know, no one.
It might be destructive to both the forces of Yesterday and yeah.
As
All
far
right.
as we know, no one's made it to tomorrow, though. Like, we know what Yesterday is nothing good.
I am a
No
risk
one's
taker,
made it
though.
to tomorrow, right? In
All
fact, you got blasted trying to get to tomorrow.
No, I got blasted getting too close to tomorrow.
Yeah.
There might have been a leak or something.
right.
A
You flew
panel
too close
came
to the sun,
loose.
You're an Icarus.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's true.
You flew too close to the sun. You're an Icarus.
Yeah.
True, you are
Because forward, tomorrow word is brighter
Yeah.
than the dark of yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
I think I need to have a backstory NPC who tried to do that. Because if you are manipulating force, if you're creating a shield,
Okay.
it's because you want to try to shield people. And
Yeah.
also having someone who's reluctant.
So
And, like-
you're literally both behind the shield as well as you are the shield of tomorrow.
I'm just leaning in. I am reclaiming my time.
It shows you. I was here. I saw it. You didn't pick it. It picked you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, all of this has been picked for me.
I
Yeah.
have a name question.
Uh-huh.
The Reborn, do they get their same names they had before?
They do.
Okay, cool, because that's what I thought.
Do you like some super old name like Morty?
Well, yeah. Here's the thing. I think in naming your characters, you can have fantasy-like names for your reborn characters. It's not like your name is Steve,
Yeah.
but it should be more Steve than an Ariadne name would be.
Is Rottingham Brinklet an acceptable name?
For Rottingham Brinklet.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's tonally right.
Give me an example of something that's totally right. Nausicaa. Staive.
Muad'Dib. Stilgar. Yeah, but you can also mix it up. You could be something interesting. Like you could be Muad'Dib Jackson.
I'm for real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was
Because
thinking...
the founders were from a much older world where maybe the names were more like ours.
I was thinking my name is Sierra Baldo the 27th, but that's like my forced name, and I hate it, so I tell everybody to call me Nico.
Okay. Yeah.
Know me?
When it comes to knowing how many generations there are, you might not necessarily... You might have been told you're the 27th, but I'm going to tell you, in-game universe-wise, sometimes there are mistakes in that accounting.
Okay.
So there may be people who claim to be a number and they're in fact much earlier or much later and don't know it, you know? So, but yeah. we can play, I am the sign of the gods. I am John, says the Fennec Wolf Child. Yeah. Please be Steve, says Minnie Marker.
Also, the NPC is not Janoru. I see you, chat. Don't think I don't see you. I always see you.
But actually, that touches on a good point. I think there will be humor in this game for sure, knowing us.
Yeah.
But tonally, it is very much going to be a sort of post-apocalyptic, weird adventure. You know, so you can expect a lot of the NPCs to be kind of maybe grim and dour or make these sort of pronouncements or be weird and obtuse, you know. So, yeah. I can't stop myself from going into certain jokes and stuff like that, but yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. It probably will not be quite as light as, say, Theogony of Kairos or some of the other things that we played that are a little...
We got plenty of tears on Theogony of Kairos.
There's room for goofs in this, though. There's room for goofs, but you know, we do want to try to concentrate as much on the connections of the characters to each other and to the world.
I'm rolling in my background, and I rolled a 20 and I saw it. That's one thing. But
when it comes to the background stuff suggested in there, some of those might not make sense. So, but let me know, and you don't have to. I'd prefer you to pick something and roll it.
Doesn't make sense. Totally doesn't make sense. But anyhow, because I was married and lost my spouse in a horrific accident, but I'm 15.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. No. But here's the thing, though, right? And I brought this up earlier as a possible motivation for why someone would want to maybe go into yesterday. Maybe there was a previous reborn student earlier this cycle who disappeared or had some sort of accident or something, and their body wasn't reclaimed.
I'll take that.
And that could have
reborn that you were previously.
it could have been another student, or it could have been an instructor.
I'll take that. But I did have a question though. Does us being reborn mechanically affect these build things? I know these are races you came up with. It's like background wise, yes, but not like +1 to this, -1 to that type business.
Not for the purposes of this.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay.
And some of those distinctions between Ariadne and the Reborn are cultural prejudices as opposed to real mechanical things. I mean, I can say, and the Ariadne, they don't look necessarily that much different because there have been these reintroductions of, and also sometimes evolution is based on certain sorts of natural selection. And in this case, there's stuff going back into the pool that it's not, well, if it's a nature, it's different than ours, you know?
Right.
We're not so different, you and I.
I have a question. what is Iotum, and is it going to be hard to get?
Iotum is a new thing that they introduced in Numenera. It's basically like an energy source.
Okay.
It's a sort of, it's like gasoline or
Okay.
fuel cells or other things like that. It basically represents, it's a power source that is more easily reconfigured by, say, rights to fuel existing Numenera.
Okay.
And to build new things.
Because I'm looking at my delve lores, like the things that are available to me to choose.
Yeah.
And one of them is right tool for the job, which allows me to just spend an intellect and an Iotum to just manifest or create from. I'm thinking me as being part machine of just changing part of my body. To be the tool that I need at that moment.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
That totally works.
My finger is now a lockpick, or.
Well, let me say this. There are some sources of Iotum which can only be harvested in yesterday.
Okay, that's fine.
For some reason, they're not apparent or available when today is in that space.
Yeah, because
so that's another reason why delves exist.
Yeah, I'm trying to choose between, because I chose one of my lores, which is just I'm gonna go with trained without armor, which gives me speed defense and when I'm not wearing armor. And is an enabler, and I already, because of my fuses flesh and steel, I don't need I already have an innate point of armor.
Yeah.
That so I can not wear armor, have speed defense, and have an innate.
Oh
point
my
of
gosh,
armor
our
in my
risk
body.
taker's gonna be armored as fuck because I have a bubble shield.
Yes.
Oh,
We're protecting you from the consequences of your act. Oh, this is bad. Well, this could go really badly.
There are also,
I'm not the one acting without consequence.
Talking about the fusing flesh and steel, there are a lot of people, among the Ariadne specifically, who have modified their bodies or use specialized pieces of equipment to help navigate the webs.
Yeah.
Whether they can be things like that unfold from their arms to give them extra gripping.
There's a couple of things that will be up for you to decide on my starting equipment, because I start with 2 ciphers and I start with 1 oddity.
Yeah.
As a delve. And they have like if the GM doesn't want to choose, there are things there, but there's also like if you want me to start with specific things, because also as a delve, I have cipher use. I can use 2 ciphers at a time.
Yeah, that's another thing. Glaives can only carry. I'm trying to remember. Is it?
If it's the same as Cypher and Warrior, it would be 2.
It's 2. Yeah.
It says I can bear 2 ciphers at a time. So
I think
start
that
with 2 ciphers.
Yeah, you start with 2 ciphers. Yeah.
Glaive is 2.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm still figuring out whether what sort of starting equipment and stuff I'll have available to all of y'all. But in some cases, it might kind of be like you probably have very few of your own personal possessions.
Yeah.
You know. Possessions. Like you probably have very few of your own. Maybe not so much the case for you if you're an instructor, but like if like the stuff you use to go on a trip or whatever would be kind of communal stuff from the school that you'd be like, you know, like even within this unit of warriors that helps protect people as they go into yesterday, a lot of them don't necessarily own their weapons or their armor. They belong to the community, and in some cases they have a storied history behind them, like they're maintained, you know, like they're inherited. Like, you know, oh, you are not worthy of wearing so-and-so's filter skin would be an insult one warrior would give to another, you know?
So, but there's ways, I'm guessing, with XP to get more of these lores later, too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think that might be something I can learn to develop if I don't have full, like, I'm just new to the school and I don't have the full understanding of that. And maybe, so it's a balancing between that, to be, like, open about like my thought process and character creation between that and between the additional training lore, which just gives me 2 extra skills from my list, which I'm thinking skills are useful. And,
incredibly useful.
And so having more of them, because I only have a few, like I have salvaging Numenera as a skill. I have navigation as a skill. Because I'm a risk taker, I'm adept at leveraging risks and trained in tasks that involve chance.
Okay.
But I have inability at sneaking, I have inability at crafting Numenera and understanding Numenera.
You can find it.
Yeah, I can find it, but I don't understand.
Well, a lot of what a delve does too is about like knowing how to navigate stuff.
Yeah.
Like you'll know that like, oh,
yeah, so I took
this structure is
navigation.
something that was left behind that didn't come with today, or this is a structure that's part of the ring. The ones we've seen in previous cycles, like I know that like you can't put your foot on this sort of material because it loses its integrity, when exposed to this. So yeah, a lot of delves is really more about navigating the environment of these artifacts.
So if I take additional training, I can take 2 more skills. And I was looking at things like perception, because it's a small list. Perception, sensing danger, initiative, tracking. There's also one.
These
that
are all
I'm
very,
definitely
very good
not taking,
and very,
which
very
is peacefully
useful.
Open communications with strangers.
Not
my job.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was going to say is, it's good to kind of cover each other's weaknesses, and also don't think about the skills you choose as being like, this is what I want to have access to. Think about like maybe some of the skills you pick should be less useful and more about who you are as a character. They might not necessarily. We're not looking to make Olympic athletes here, although I think to a degree. Some of you might be, or at least mental Olympics. But then there's it's fun to have stuff that, like, I'm good at this, but it doesn't necessarily feed directly into the story,
So one of the customization things in Cypher that I was curious about asking about, they have a section on customization where you can do things like lose the ability. Like lower your cipher limit by 1 in exchange for a skill.
Yeah.
And which I really like. And also take a skill and take an inability so that it balances.
Yeah. You're welcome to do stuff like that.
Because then I get more inabilities. Then I can fail more.
Yeah.
And
why you fail is
I
interesting.
appreciate that you're min-maxing failure. You're you're literally min-maxing.
I've created characters where I'm like, they don't fail enough.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to make them better at the thing so they can fail the other thing.
Yeah.
I might actually go up on that because I like having another inability as well. Like,
Great.
What about this name?
I want to fail at more things.
Naxos Stemwinder.
I like that. Yeah.
Great. Done.
Let's make it Stemwinder.
Okay, Naxos Stemwinder, charming artist that crafts illusions.
Yeah.
No.
And Stemwinder, Stemwinder is interesting because Stemwinder is an Ariadne name, and you have it as a reborn because the actual last name of Naxos has been lost.
Right.
So
I'll make a new name for
previous Naxoses may have had another last name, but you were given the name Stemwinder by the father who birthed you, basically.
I'm the best of both worlds. Makes sense.
He's an Ariadne.
I get my pencils.
He's an Ariadne named Stemwinder. And Stemwinder, it's kind of like being called like Cooper or Baker or something. A Stemwinder is someone who goes along. There are particular types of strands that connect between parts of the web that are not structural, but instead they grow, They grow these glowing fruit, which are part of the staple of people's diets. It's like a starchy, glowing fruit. And so a Stemwinder is someone who checks on them and makes sure that they're basically being cultivated. He has to go and wind the stems to make sure that they remain taut so that they won't touch each other and that they grow correctly and all that sort of stuff. Like they look kind of like if you see dew on a spider web, So Stemwinder is an Ariadne name, but you are the first Naxos Stemwinder.
I am the Naxos Stemwinder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
So we can do stuff like that. We can put little excuses for little bits of story about your characters and your relationship to the world in there.
Yeah, that all happened real time, folks.
See, this is why we do Session 0. This is why we do it.
Yeah.
I roll. Oh, you were about to say stuff.
it's just,
I can hear you leaking over there. Do you want to talk? Because you.
Because I was about to say so, and then it stopped at this. Speaking of names, Just to hear what you think of this one.
Mhm.
It's the same first name, but this last name. So it's Preletia Rosono.
I like that.
See what you think of that.
Yeah, and Rizono, is a name that,
It's Latin for echo. Yeah.
but it's ancient.
Yeah.
It's not the same as Stemwinder. Yeah,
That's why I was
Rizono,
choosing Latin names to
Yeah.
be very, because that's about as ancient as I feel, unless I'm trying to do like Aramaic.
yeah, and you
Too mainstream.
one of the previous is it Prolethea? What's the first name? Prolethea?
Yeah, well, it's 3 different words put to smash together.
Okay, so one of the previous incarnations, I'd like to say that there's a very famous previous Prolethea, but that person was a great seer, not a warrior. So
Curious.
people are a little weirded out when they meet you and they find out that you're Prolethea, that you were the current Prolethea, and they're like, oh wow, all right,
Why
yeah,
is this?
like they're surprised. You know,
that.
it doesn't seem at all like how Prolethea was historically, because there's one specific famous Prolethea.
Yeah. Well, it leads into the whole fact
Reborns are
of,
changing.
I think that leads into the fact of me wanting to find out, more about
Yeah.
Prolethea and like why people are so weirded out that I'm not this
Yeah.
typical, cookie cutter of.
I have to
Not like the
say,
other girl.
Yeah, not the other
just
girl.
because we talk about something as being part of the background in this, I can't promise it'll pop up in the story.
No, it helps me understand the
Yeah,
character.
exactly.
Yeah, it informs your
Yeah.
choices for sure.
Yeah.
So because we talk about something, oh yeah, you're connected to
Not
this, or
something-
yeah, the reason because you're like this is because of this.
I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go to yesterday because of this, guys. It's nice.
Yeah.
More of like. It
But I
helps
mean,
me
even
understand
for
the
minor
mind.
stuff, you know,
No.
as long as it informs your character, it's useful
Yeah.
that it exists.
Yeah.
And for when this is incredibly popular and we have to put out the behind the scenes descriptions of all the lore.
Hey man, people were asking within the first 10 minutes for a PDF of this.
Yeah.
Like immediately talking, people were
Yeah.
asking for it.
So
Yeah.
Or
the
of your
ancient,
setting.
Prolethea, what were they?
They were a famous seer,
Famous seer.
which is basically a nano. There are multiple types of nanos. Not all nanos are seers, and not all
Hashtag
seers
not
are
all
nanos. Hashtag not all nanos.
Not only.
Yeah, but yeah, this particular one was
Stop nano shaming.
yeah, don't nano shame.
So,
They're good wizards.
I also
Goodness,
rolled my
it's
d20 for the roll your background. And I got you were a constable, and everybody knows you but has differing opinions about you. And so that informs, I feel like the past Sierras were all.
Oh, so maybe that applies to a past Sierra,
Yeah.
not to you.
Gosh,
And
I thought
so-
someone tried to make you hall monitor because they figured like you should be, and it was catastrophically a bad choice. That kind of constable. Someone was
No,
like, "Well,
I-
the previous ones were so responsible. This is perfect. This is great." And that was your pushback.
Yeah, that was so. But I like the idea of like maybe on one of the buildings in today there's like a plaque to like
Yes.
a very very previous Sierra that like saved the town or something
Mhm.
because they were a really forthright constable, and so everyone sees that plaque and everyone knows
You don't know
me.
that you're a murder baby.
And so
Mad
like,
murder
I,
baby.
and I hate that. It's not my name.
That's great. So yeah, I feel like we are getting a lot of. I'm sorry I haven't shown off more of the rule system and stuff like that. We're gonna go through it through the week. As we. What's the best way to do this? Should we have like just PDF character sheets that we fill out and just share in one
That's what I've
spot?
been doing right over here.
Okay, I will.
You send me the Philip.
There are many people here who have more experience
that.
handling
Okay.
a lot of those individual bits of it. So I will defer to
Yeah.
those who
That's
are
the best way to end up
more
with a
organized
really
than I am.
Ugly Excel spreadsheet of character sheets, but it'll be.
Yeah, I think I have a first name. I'm not good with last names, and sometimes.
Don't have
Yeah.
problem. Maybe
But
I'll share.
I'm thinking I like the first name. I like Argon.
Oh, I like that too, like the gas or the
Yeah.
laser.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no.
and it sounds like a mythical. To me that is a perfect Numenera in a game because it suggests science, but also it sounds kind of ancient, like something out of the Iliad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Argon.
And like the Argonauts and.
Yeah.
So.
Aeneas.
Yeah, one part exploration and one part noble gas and
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. Yeah.
You know, you guys, so I'm reading the illusion things. I just got to it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to pick. One of you is never fooled by my illusions. One of you has a special angle where you can like tell and you can point out like mistakes I make. One of you is my assistant and I get bonuses. And one of you, your face is so intriguing that I unconsciously duplicate you in my illusion.
I think it's usually an or. Like, pick one.
One or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to pick one. Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, you can pick multiple. I do like the idea, especially since I have skills in identifying, understanding Numenera, that I can see right through your shit.
I like the idea
Also,
that can
I
never
have
fool.
no social graces, and, like, admittedly, I'm not any easier to convince, but I kind of like the idea that I can see through your shit, but somehow it kind of works anyway.
It's like when you see a kid being bad,
Yeah.
and you're like, you're being bad, and I just need to reproach, oh, but you do bad so well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
I kind of like that.
I'm kind of
so
impressed
if you're
with your
into
creativity.
That link, I'm into
My
it.
only thing about me never being able to trick you is I don't know to what lengths I'm going to be going to try and trick you.
That's
Yeah.
well, all the more so. That's why you could maybe pick more than one, and that's
Right.
just a flavor
Yeah.
thing that we've decided.
Yeah.
Or like maybe that's a beat that comes up.
Yeah.
For names, since we're doing names, I never do names this early. I was thinking I might just be the guardian.
Okay.
I'm just it's the thing that I am.
Now, do you
Because I'm
still-
older than all these fools.
Yeah. Well, you have been your lifespan has been artificially extended
Exactly.
with through your own powers, through various ciphers. How old do you want to appear to be?
7. I'm kidding.
You don't count votes.
But I like 40.
I think I'm actually not going to be that old for a couple reasons.
Okay.
It's easier to connect to the party if they're a little closer in age.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of being the new guardian.
Okay.
It gives me something to prove, which charges, like, I have much more desire to protect. And then I get that NPC I was talking about is probably the last guardian.
Okay.
The previous
From
one.
all right. So let's say
So, I'm the guardian.
let's emphasize this even more. The previous guardian dropped dead during the last Great Cycle ritual. And the previous guardian was a reborn, but you were tapped as the next in line. And some people thought it was just going to be a temporary thing. The guardian has always been one of the reborn, you know? But you were so well respected in the community, and you were basically the right person for the job. And, I mean, you probably don't think you've been doing that great, and you're kind of worried about it, but in general, your performance has been exemplary. But you may doubt that.
Can
you know?
I counterpitch a little bit of it?
Yeah, go for it.
The last guardian went back into yesterday to try to save one of their charges.
Okay. And maybe this was the charge that had a connection with one of you. So
because
this person caused multiple deaths, and
there's a reborn who is out there, like, we
Yeah.
haven't recovered, and we really need to, like, right now, because it's the
Yeah.
proper time of the cycle. Like, this is
So
the only time we could.
this is your last chance.
You three
Before
are all,
we hit
they're
the
all-
tower.
This are both.
Yeah,
So, like, is
It wasn't clear
freaking
if I
key.
am or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
I think I am.
What's that?
Oh, I am. Am I reborn? I think we said I am.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so
cool.
you three are
Yeah,
born. Where are
you're
you
not, and I'm not.
Okay, so I was just figuring out my connections.
I do want to mention for the folks at home what we mean when we talk about the background and the connections and the. I think it's a really interesting sort of
Yeah,
setup.
yeah.
where-
Let's talk about it.
Where so with your sentence, with your adjective, noun, and
Verb.
your what is it? Your noun gives you a background, your verb gives you a connection, and your adjective gives you like a starting game motivation.
Yeah.
And so I
Is
think
it cool? It's all baked into it.
yeah, and so it's an interesting concept. So we each get a very different thing to focus on for our background, for our connection, and for our starting motivation.
Though again, in the
based on-
spirit of customization, I have a link in a game that I pulled from a completely different descriptor because I thought it was the dopeness, and the descriptor totally was inappropriate. But I loved the link so much, I was like, "Could this be my link, please?"
Yeah.
Because it's so good.
yeah.
the lovely thing about this system in general is how extensible it is. So
Yeah,
you can
modular and extendable for sure.
you can use these. You can steal from other ones. Like I'm looking at my links and I'm like, these don't quite work. I'll go find a different one, and it looks like already just from story.
Yeah.
I'm getting some of those, and I'm comfortable with.
One reason that I am doing this in kind of my own original subsetting of Numenera is because I've read some of the existing books, but I'm waiting on the super deluxe slipcase versions of the new ones, which are getting fulfilled by the Kickstarter. Because that's how I ingest those things. I mean, I love having a PDF when I play for searchable stuff or whatnot, but just that experience of sitting with the book.
Yeah.
And these books are going to be incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of what their special editions are going to look like, but they're leather-bound, gilt-edge pages, like just collector's item beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and once, if we decide to continue on with this, it'll probably be in a setting that is more like what is described in the Ninth World, in the existing books.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons that I'm doing this in my own little pocket is because if I don't know the answer, I can make it up with more confidence.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And without breaking everything else in the rest of the world, you know? I can say like, well, I was not wrong about that. That's just how it was in RINGWEB.
Yeah. Super legit. So one thing that might be part of the charming background is one of my adventure hooks is I can be behind all of this and I set the events in motion, especially if I have the background that I lost somebody. You were asking about that.
Yeah.
So the fate of the die roll.
Did you talk the girl into it? The one who went
I lost someone,
frack in a stack.
and I'm trying to assemble
You're trying to fix it.
a rescue mission, basically.
Yeah.
Should we go through each of these things all together, like the background and the connection?
Yeah, we've got some time. I want to save probably about 10 minutes or so at the end for us to just decompress and goof off a little bit. And I want to be able to I want to have room to thank a lot of the people who are involved in this and who are helping us. And
Stick around for your shout outs.
yeah. And if there are any super pressing questions, that anybody who's watching has, I may or may not have answers for them, but please put them in the chat, and we'll try to get to some of them by the end.
Put a capital question in front of it. If you have a specific thing you want to ask us in the time we have left,
That's
capital
helpful.
question.
No,
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, that's a good prompt. Let's start with Ash over here and
Okay.
give us a brief description of what you know so far about your character and how they might relate to some of the other people or NPCs in the world.
Okay. So as I've said, I'm the strong-willed glaive who acts without consequence.
Mhm.
I'm sort of a stealthy, stabby, strong-willed 10-year-old
Mhm.
who is fighting, the assumptions made about her because of past incarnations. Because I'm reborn.
Yeah.
So my name is Sierra Baldo. That was the name given to me. I did not take it. I ask everyone to call me Nico, and that comes in part from the background I rolled as a glaive was that I was a constable, and
Yeah.
everyone knows me and has differing opinions of me. I haven't done my other two
I think
yet.
you're reborn. The previous generations of you
Mhm.
are not as famous as say Prolethea.
Famous seer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
but-
the idea that
but-
everybody knows me because
But the
they're
most
black.
recent incarnation
Oh,
was
okay.
the constable
Oh, okay.
and was very well liked.
Oh, okay. So it was like the last one who
Yeah.
everyone. It was so recent. Everyone still remembers them.
Yeah.
Like people who are living knew them.
You're the reincarnation of Obama, whereas
Oh,
whereas
the pressure.
D'Artagnan might be the reincarnation of
Gandhi.
Alexander the Great or
Oh, I
something
see.
like that.
Teddy
You know what I mean?
Roosevelt? Yeah, right.
So I knew your previous incarnation.
Yes. And you
Ooh, I like
probably upon meeting me had great hopes. And I was like, no.
Well, I think the constable and the guardian are different roles.
Yeah.
So
Oh, they definitely are, just for the purposes of being
personality-wise.
an adult Ariadne.
yeah.
I
So-
probably knew the previous incarnation because
Yes.
I was.
Oh, sorry, I misheard
at least
that.
old enough that I know Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my connections with acts. Acts without consequence gives me 4 options of connections. One is pick another PC. Through a quirk of fate, this character is sometimes blamed for your exploits, even if they're not near you. Pick another PC. You recently discovered that they always seem to be able to track you when you slip into the shadow. Pick one other PC. You save them from certain death by taking a lucky gamble. It could have gone either way, but in the end they lived. If you'd lost, they would have certainly died. Pick another PC. They rescued you from an awful predicament during one of the few times your luck failed you. You're a bit embarrassed that they know you have limits. So I was kind of leaning towards the fourth one.
What was that one again?
It's one of the other PCs rescued me from an awful predicament during one of the few times where my luck failed, and I'm a bit embarrassed that they know my limits. And
okay, how about this?
Yes.
Because you're so young. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Maybe because I want you to have good connections to each other, but you can also, if it doesn't necessarily fit, that's another PC. We can make up an NPC that you have that connection with that is either an important part of the story or not. But you want to get the effect of it. I mean, you want to see that interaction created.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of thinking that maybe it was D'Artagnan's character. That like his, like, I was wondering if we were reborn as people who were like siblings, like he was my older brother or something. And
so you were a family even in your past life.
In our past life, yeah. And like perhaps like that connection keeps being forced, and it's one of those things I rebel against, but you like saved my life at one point, and so I like resent that it was you that did it.
He's like a symbol of all of those expectations for you.
Okay.
And so like your kind of arc gets to have some aspect of like the humanization of that thing that you've pushed so hard against.
I'm like an older brother that you're an older brother that I hate, but I also like the idea that you're still my older brother because you're also different than you were before, and so you're also like another example of you're the only other reborn I've met who is different than their previous incarnation.
Yeah, it must be okay.
How convenient that we met.
And the reactions and expectations of both the Ariadne and the Reborn. Oh, I want to emphasize something. The Reborn, it's not like there is a council of reborn elders that are the leaders of this civilization. And that's not necessarily how it is.
They're 6% of the population. 6.4.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of great leaders who have been Ariadne, and and it doesn't. You're not necessarily destined for greatness as being a.
Some of us are.
Just by you are obviously, but just by virtue of being reborn, not everybody. For one, you're not superior.
Yeah.
But some people might think you by nature are or aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people among the people of today who really think that a lot of this stuff with the reborn is a waste of time. You know, that some of these rituals have no meaning. You know, and they're holding us back.
Wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Sweet. Well, that helped me out with my characters.
See, this is again, it's so much better than everybody making their characters in a vacuum. Or even in previous games, I've had a very one-on-one thing with each of my players, like over Skype or Discord or whatever platform, or even in person. Oh, let's go get coffee and talk about your character for this upcoming game. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing to do. And if that's the only way you can do it, that's really valuable. But there's something very, very cool about these sort of cues, like in this case, you're helping D'Artagnan with his character. You're kind of giving you're yes-anding each other about your backgrounds, which I really dig.
It's actually Never Say Die has this fun little thing where apparently one of the links to the character could be that you're very protective of said character, and I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm very protective of you.
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to figure out my connection on Fuse This Flesh with Steel, and there are two that I was really leaning towards. One is that I have a bond with another player over the fact that we're both part mechanical, which I thought about that, but then there's one the first one there that I really liked, which is the first part of it assumes that I'm hiding my mechanicalness or that it's not apparent, but I feel like because of the small close-knit community of today and the fact that like where it happened and how it happened would have been like everyone knows. It's not. I wouldn't go with that part of it. But the second part is if that doesn't apply, that another PC knows a different secret about me.
Okay.
And specifically, the secret that they have listed there, I really like, and I think the Guardian would know it, as the Guardian knows some action or passphrase or words that shut down my mechanics for 10 minutes.
They know where your off switch is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
Yeah, because I feel like you as the Guardian or the Guardian to be at the time would have been there when this thing happened to me, and the
I was there, and then I happened to become the Guardian.
Yes.
Because, like, apparently, I was just tapped.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
whoa,
so
what?
you-
No, what? Whoa,
Whenever-
okay, cool.
Well, your incident was different from the ritual of the Great
Yes,
Cycle.
I understand,
Yeah.
but it happened in today,
Yeah.
on the border of tomorrow.
I was around when it happened, so
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
By that, I know the passphrase, and now I'm Guardian, and so like
Yeah.
And
keeping
you're-
an eye on people. It's actually kind of.
And
oh,
you're-
crap,
and you're-
did I
and
build
you're-
an XO?
and you're-
I mean, you
And
probably
you're prominent now, like-
see using that word, it would be an incredible violation. You know.
Oh yeah, no, I
But
have
you know, maybe you get into a situation that you think is so dangerous to everybody.
right.
Who knows?
And
It's good to have some tension there.
my
It's still good to know.
Delve background. I rolled on a d20, got a 4 on my die, which was the write up was that I have a sibling who is a glaive who is like a specimen hunter. But my thought on that is like maybe I have a sibling that it part of the ties into moving into the story is maybe my sibling is that lost
Yeah.
It's all coming
reborn.
together. Oh man, I like that.
Like, so the person that I'm looking for. that's
I'm
lost.
wary of having too many
many.
people be connected to this one person
Okay.
because I want some tension of not everybody. There can be reasons that you would want to go in. That's one thing that we do have to be careful about with these sort of session zeros. Is that is the temptation to have absolutely everything be interconnected.
Yeah.
You two
and
could be
On a
siblings.
scale of 1 to Charles Dickens, how
Poison.
connected are we?
You two
Yeah.
could be siblings. Because it makes sense. If I'm the one that's instigating this whole adventure, I would have come to you as the Delve anyway. Like, you probably would have been the first
Yeah.
person I recruited.
Alright, here. I'm just gonna roll. See.
We're going to let
Here.
Frank decide.
Yeah. I'll let.
so let's. I know we're
Frank decide.
bucking the order a little bit here, but let's have you roll that and then give a brief description from the beginning of your character and the
Oh, yeah.
choices you've made so far.
Okay, so for my sentence.
And then
is-
we'll go back to the order.
yeah,
We'll go back to
I
Dave.
am a risk-taking delve that fuses flesh and steel.
Okay.
They're named Argon. I don't have a last name yet.
You're like Madonna.
Yeah.
Just Argo.
Artist formerly known as.
Yeah, just Boisel, just Argon. It all goes together. I have almost all of my. I think I have all of my actual number stuff done. I figured it like all my skills and things.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you'll be ahead of the curve.
And
I'm for
I
sure
took
doing
the optional idea that Sam was talking about of picking up an extra skill, but also picking up an extra inability.
An ability, yeah.
And so I decided in addition to not being able to be sneaky, I also just cannot lie. I have inability at deceiving.
Okay.
So I am like.
That actually
I love
helps
it.
me.
Yes.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
right.
Wait, so you can't lie, or you're just really bad?
I'm
at
really,
lying?
really bad
You-
at lying. I'm really bad
the
at sneaking.
difficulty.
I'm-
The difficulty counts as 1 point higher
Yeah,
for
I'm
you
really bad
automatically
at lying.
in
I'm
tasks
really bad at
related to lying.
sneaking.
You just made
I
a
am-
choice for me there. So
I
that's
am.
good.
I am
Yeah.
just like.
It means he's got to roll 3 higher
Yeah.
in every situation that uses that because
Yeah.
the difficulty is increased by 1 by
Yeah.
their ability.
I'm very sneaky.
Yeah.
And then the 10 I rolled here is just that it says I ran with bandits for a short time. But after thinking better of it, I think I may have ran because I wasn't part of the school
I appreciate
before.
that you're freaking
Yeah.
cyber
So-
Maybe you're part of an underground group that is trying to discover a lot of the secrets of this world
And
on their own outside of the power structure.
Outside of the power structure as an Ariadne outside of the school.
Yeah.
And then that led to me to the incident that changed me and brought me to the school.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have connections with like an Ariadne group out that is not associated with the school that are kind of bucking the traditions within today.
Yeah.
Oh, how funny. It's like messing up your mission to learn about stuff brought you into the school, so now you can learn about stuff.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
It's the will of the living force.
It all works out.
Was that it?
Yeah, and it also casts doubt in your mind. Is it, were you selected because of what happened to you, or because you have this sort of potential,
Or because they know.
or are they hoping that you're going to reveal your connections to your
And I'm
family?
really bad at lying, so don't ask me about it.
Yeah. All right. So should we? You want to jump back to a brief recap of who Dave is playing?
So again, this is Schrodinger's character sheet here. Like, it's not going to condense until the next time we play.
Yeah.
Because my intention is to be like a support buffer person. So it's moving around. Although I'm pretty good on Charming, I'm pretty good on Arcus. I need to like double check. But I actually think instead of Illusions, I'm gonna go with Speaks with a Silver Tongue.
I was looking at that, and you had already been like, said, "Do you want to do Craft Solutions?" I was like, "Oh, Speaks with a Silver Tongue would be so good for this character," and just unify
Craft
all
Solutions is good for characters like me, who I'm not as comfortable in being in character and acting all the time, and I can describe things and narrate them. Silver Tongue is definitely more a B. Dave Walters.
I'm probably gonna be. I'm specializing in words.
Yes.
With a subspecialization in words.
Thank you, that's great.
In good words.
So,
Right.
When you want to look, as a point for people learning the system, if you want to look at how to build characters who are really good at a thing, this is it. The descriptor makes him better at words. The type makes him better at words. The focus makes him better at words. You can have a versatile character by changing them all up.
Yeah.
But if you stack them, you get this overpowered characteristic where there's just a dominant force in a given thing.
And Alcuin's gonna be like, Zone of Silence, now what? I'm like, are helpless. Yeah. So I'm looking that way right now. Again, I'm learning all of this as you all are. So the plan might change, but it's looking good. I will say this: one of my connections, and Poise will just answer this for me. I have to pick one other PC. That character would like to learn your storytelling technique, and you're trying to decide whether or not to teach them. So maybe you want me to help you learn how to like lie, and I don't know if there's any hope for you.
That could work. Because do I know how bad I am?
I think your original family might be very distrustful of the Reborn and a lot of these institutions in general.
I think so too. I think I'm very distrustful of the Reborn, especially with who I was running with.
Yeah.
Like,
shadow running.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
All right, I know we're short on time, so that's it for me. It's coalescing, but
Yeah,
I think that's the core of it.
It's actually better to not have everything be locked down 100% right now, because we're once we get into the actual statistics, you may see that like, geez, this isn't really, that doesn't play out mechanically the way I thought it would.
I just don't want you guys to feel lied to if like next week we roll in and Nexos is a completely different person, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be there-ish.
I'm gonna be a 22-year-old technomancer.
Like Chainsmokers, yeah. So that's it. I know we don't have a lot of time.
All right, so D'Artagnan. Give us a brief recap of who Prolethea is so far.
Prolethea Rizono is, I am a clever glaive who never says die. One of my background traits is that I have no formal training. I just rolled a d22. It was just 6. I have no formal training. I'm just naturally good or unnaturally good at that, which makes sense with the whole Reborn.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard to say. A lot of this is a sort of commentary of nature versus nurture when it comes to evolution stuff.
It's something I love to research. I love to research that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's always interesting. So I was trying to figure out though, are we brother and sister now, or was it just back in the day?
Oh, let's see. Well, here's the thing too: is
in this life.
You save my life in this life. Yeah.
So perfect.
After they're finished with school, I think some Reborn choose to how they integrate into society can be a certain thing. You might be related in a family sense, even though you're it's possible. Reborn can have an Ariadne, can be the product of Ariadne parent or of a what should we call it, a Reborn parent, but they can also interbreed with each other. So it's very possible you're both Reborn, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that your original versions were siblings.
So like sibling.
Yeah.
Like sister.
So.
How about this?
Buddies.
How about this?
Cool buddies.
I've got it.
Yes.
I've got it. You both have the same birth parent.
fantastic.
Okay.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
are siblings.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're reborn as
In
both
the
you are-
people. You just
but-
can't have the same
But
biological
as
conduit.
as being both reborn, you are actually not genetically related, even though being from the same parent.
Well, it's like you are genetically related. You're not spiritually related.
No,
or are you
because they
saying the reborn are
they
actually different genetics?
Yeah,
like
that's
almost
the-
like a
that's how you
artificial
can tell.
insemination.
Yeah.
because they don't have the same memories or anything. What they have is the same face.
Yeah.
Same genes.
Same
Diggins.
Yeah.
And I really like the calling to me, that something is calling to me.
Okay.
And I think the whole the not fitting in this cookie cutter of, well, Prolethea was this great seer, why are you not a nano as well?
Yeah.
And instead I just became a glaive. I was very good. I'm still figuring out there's okay, so I don't know the name of what I have.
I mean,
in
your
my
character
mind.
is basically like 15, 16-ish age-wise.
Yeah.
So
it's but I meant for the sport.
yeah, we got a week to work on that.
Yeah, I have something, but I'll work with that later. But yeah, it's great. It's very fun.
And if you can find a way to connect it so it tells us, so any way that sport and your liking of it tells us more about you or tells us more about the world is useful. Like I think about like the role of ball games in like Aztec culture or something.
yeah.
Like it wasn't just a game to them. There were other elements of it.
Yeah.
And like I said before, maybe it started out as a certain sort of training. Maybe that sport is something that brings the community together in a way. It has a social value. It has a cultural value beyond just being a sport.
I can tell you what it is, like in my mind. So basically, it's like this reanimated, like little tiny, like remember the Star Wars that had those little spherical droids?
Yeah.
Situations. So something like that, but it's an obstacle course, and there's two goals, and the whole point of this game is to capture this creature that actively fights against you. So you have to fight it, subdue it, and then bring it back to your base.
It's in like a sort of, and it's in a maze of webs that are made
exactly.
specifically for it.
So I wanted to capture also this ring world that we're on as well. And
Also,
so,
people use magnetic, ciphers, and their localized areas of gravity built into the webs.
Yeah.
So there are times when you look up and you see people walking along a strand.
which would
There's localized areas, but yeah, so
be perfect in this.
they can definitely manipulate gravity and architecture to create the sort of court that you're looking for
Yeah.
for this
Well, my
game.
thinking was that it started out as an obstacle course to train.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
abstracted out version of scavenging, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hunting creatures and through space that might be weird and difficult.
Yeah,
Makes perfect sense.
that's real good.
I was gonna say I'm gonna backtrack on our relationship, given what we've just.
Yeah, well, we figured out.
We don't
So
like
Yeah,
each other
because-
anymore. We hate each other.
No. The opposite
You
actually
plan.
is that like I feel like I'm actually really think of you as like my big brother, and everybody else is like, well, no, but you guys aren't actually genetically related, and he's not your brother, and I'm like, no, he's my brother,
yeah,
and like I really look up to the fact that you are different than your previous
Sick. I like
thing,
this.
and I'm like, I can be different too, and so part of me wanting to be different is like,
I'm going to flesh out this NPC then. This guy who's your parent.
Yeah.
Basically.
yeah.
And I'm just to reiterate, I'm very protective.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like that you saved my life, because I don't want you to think of me as weak, because I want to be big and strong with you.
So
Yeah.
I do know we started a little bit late, but in terms of managing expectations, I want to make sure we wind this up. So anything else before Sam jumps on there?
Well, I had like this whole train of thought, but it's whatever.
We have 5 minutes.
I think we're in a good
It's
place.
chill.
I'm
understand
already
my
starting to
characters.
visualize your characters and their relationships, so it's good. You've given me a lot to work with. I'm going to forget some of it, so I'm going to be bugging.
Gonna
Hey, there's
post it
VOD,
all
so it's
the-
great.
Oh yeah, in the Discord where we can go ham all.
We are going to
all
make a
week.
Discord, by the way. You guys are asking for an uncommon
Yeah.
trust Discord. We're going to make that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trust us, we
Tomorrow.
totally
I see what you did there.
So I am the mystical nano who manipulates force. I'm the guardian, and I think less like an actual like Reinhardt-y kind of shield person, and a bit more like an oracular calling of a sense. Like there's a little bit of like Delphi flavor to this.
Yeah.
So y'all actually, since it's fairly recent, the older of you might have known me when I was not the guardian. and was definitely a little less weird. I'm definitely.
They lost
more
all
weird
chill.
now.
Did you have a
Say
name
weird.
before you were the Guardian?
Yes.
Okay.
How long have you been the Guardian? Is that just one
It-
cycle?
It's been like
It
yeah.
has been less than a
this
cycle now.
So actually, yeah.
It's almost one cycle
Whether
exactly.
or not, like, you certainly
great cycle,
saw
sorry.
my face, small town.
yeah.
But like, may well not have had any.
Well, some of you
They-
wouldn't. Anyone who were reborn
They
were
were in the school.
isolated.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. I would be
Right.
the only
Yeah.
one who knew you before you were the Guardian.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's them.
What was your sentence?
Mystical nano who manipulates force. So a lot of the nano connections don't fit in like meaningful or useful ways. There's one. You worked the gardens in the palace of an influential noble. She wouldn't remember you, but you made friends with her young daughter, and I think that can be reflavored to have been working actually in a different and much more custodial capacity at the school.
Okay.
And that would allow me to have a little
Yeah.
bit more pre-existing relationship with the
Yeah.
reborn characters, which feels strong to me.
Yeah.
So I did work at the school in some capacity, but then when I became the Guardian, people thought I was there, like, for the first time. It's like, oh, you work at the school now! It's like, I've been here.
I think
Okay.
the leadership probably knew the value of what you were doing.
Yeah.
But the common people, some
Right.
some saw it as a bit of a surprise, especially because you were promoted to that role
Yeah.
as an Ariadne.
Yeah.
Which isn't it. Gee, I'm trying to decide, have there ever been? Is it that there's never been an Ariadne-born Guardian, or is it just maybe? Let's just say within recent history there has not been one.
It's unusual.
Last time there was an Ariadne Guardian was in the time of Prolethea the Great.
Okay, many great cycles ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great.
Yes.
Because then you get a little bit of the sort of like all of this has happened before like vibe that we're
Yeah.
starting to
Yeah.
develop here. Of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, there was this one and there was that one.
This
Yeah.
year
Sort of
seems like
amplifies
I got a
what
lot to
you're
live
doing.
up to for this year.
Yeah.
So you're both playing non-binary characters, correct?
Yep.
Okay, that works very well with Ariadne characters. There are a greater proportion of non-binary Ariadne than there are of reborn, but both all genders exist in both casts.
Oh, so
basically.
reborn
Yes,
more.
even that one.
They lean to one side or the other
It's more common to have
for reborn.
binary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
it's
We're
more
ones and
uncommon.
zeros, baby.
The Envies have taken over the Ariadne. I do need to hit
Huzzah.
my PC connection, at least.
Okay.
The one I liked best was pick one other PC. They don't believe you can create invisible fields of force. After all, neither they nor anyone else can see anything. You suspect they might actually be very interested in your abilities. They're going through your stuff, trying to find the answer to what you can do.
Uh-huh.
But, like, a little bit like, well, not even object permanence. Like, I've never even seen it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like I
Just
kind of-
Emperor's New Clothes or whatever. Or yours.
So if anyone is feeling like they want to not believe my bubbles exist, I was hoping.
You just want to be a
I wa-
rat.
I was hoping.
Well, I
You're gonna run face
think
first
that
in a win.
if
Also,
you,
you'd be going through my stuff.
yeah, I also think that if you worked at the school before, you may have tried to talk to me because you knew.
I think you're probably the person from my background. Like, that you are the one who knew me before.
But they're the
Because I have the
youngest, though.
nano background.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it was very recent.
it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, because
Yeah.
you also knew my last
Yeah.
Yeah.
the last version of me, and so you may have come up and been like, "Hey, I just wanted to say hi." And
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
"I don't know you."
Yeah, I have to figure out both who I am now and who I was before I became the Guardian. And those are probably going to be very different characters.
So we're gonna wrap up now. And I was excited about starting this next week, and I'm like 1,000 times more excited now. So
Very excited!
So
Thank you all
this
for
has been a
watching.
very successful session 0, I think, and I hope that it's been useful just for people watching this who want to like use this in their games in general for character creation, but also if people are to get people excited for the show. It's a dual purpose, you know. So it's like it's promotional and it's also mechanical. So yeah, I'm Alcuin Gersh. You can find me on my own Twitch channel, Different Elves. I'm also the same on Twitter. I'm at Different Elves. And just for speed, I'm going to go through everybody else's here. We've got Poisel is at apoisel on Twitter. Sam is at Tchaikovsky. There are also these little nameplates in the overlay, so hopefully you should be following these people already, damn it. But if you're not, Ash is Moonclad Ash on Twitter.
And Astronaut44 on Instagram.
On Instagram, yeah, I know you love the Instagram.
No pictures.
Yeah, that's right. The incomparable B. Dave Walters.
Thank you.
And D'Artagnan here at Crystallized Music, which you should be looking at Crystallized, their stuff on SoundCloud.
That's true.
It all slaps, as they say.
Yeah, I have a personal account, but I barely use it, so that's the one if you want to.
No, you are Crystallized Music.
You are.
Well, me and Ben. Yes.
Yeah, you and Ben are.
So
That's true.
We're twosome that makes one.
Hey,
Yeah.
and thank you all for sticking with us. The
Yeah.
overwhelming majority watched this whole thing.
We really
from
want to
beginning
thank
end.
Indigo. We want to thank Jake, Will, Kareem, all the
Yes.
folks here from QueueTimes. Thank you
For the record, watch
letting us do this.
Watch QueueTimes video. They make really great stuff, great reviews. They have their own play stuff. They do. It's all
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
As someone who plays World of Warcraft, I appreciate a lot of the content that QueueTimes puts out. So, we wanted to thank Monty Cook Games, Darcy, Bruce, Shanna, Monty. Just thank them for making a cool product that we're very excited to build our own world in. I think that's about it. I guess we'll see you this time next week.
Yeah, next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
PST.
Sunday at noon. Tune in for session 1 of RINGWEB,
Yes.
a 3-part Numenera game.
Is session 1 going to be noon to 3 or noon to 4?
I thought 3. Good. Well, because
Noon to
same as a hard
Noon
out.
to 3?
So 3.
Yeah,
Great.
noon to 3.
Yep.
Who's verifying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. You
Noon to
already
3.
want more.
All right.
You already want more.
So
Follow
thank you, folks. We love you. We'll see you next week.
The Uncommon Trust. Follow it everywhere.
Yeah.
Do this thing.
We'll have posts, we swear.
We swear.